People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
A really important thing about GB News, and it's brought something completely different to the landscape.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, the reality is that most British journalists are afraid.
That's not GB News.
Journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
We're here to talk about things in a way that have never been broadcast on British airways before.
Do not miss a moment on GB News.
the #1 news channel in the country.
Hello, good morning. Hope you're well. Live from Washington, D.C., this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on Earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you. No apologies, no hesitation, epic fury.
Big breaking news tonight. An American pilot has been rescued after Iran shot down a fighter jet, with a frantic race now continuing into the night to find a second serviceman. 2 rescue aircraft are also believed to have faced fire from the regime, with 1 crashing in Kuwait. And now GB News understands the national security team is gathered in the White House, with President Trump continuing to receive updates on the situation. Elsewhere tonight,
Easter is a moment of hope. A reminder that even in the darkest times, renewal is possible, and that light can overcome darkness.
prayer or posture? Politicians are releasing their Easter messages today, but why does it seem politics is being put before faith? I'll reveal all shortly. Plus,
nobody's ever escaped from Alcatraz, and just represented something strong having to do with law and order. We need law and order in this country.
The Rock returns. President Trump has put in a $150 million bid to reopen the infamous Alcatraz prison almost 60 years after closure. And cold case solved. The murder of a teenager more than 50 years ago has finally been cracked, with it confirms that she was a victim of one of the world's most notorious serial killers. I'm Ben Leo, and this is The Late Show Live. Hello, good morning, good Friday to you. Joining me in Washington this evening is my panel, the political strategist and podcast host Tiffany Marie Brannan and the Democrat strategist Mally Smith. And I'm delighted to say, back home in Blythe, journalist and broadcaster Christo Foufas. Hello Christo, thank you for your company. We'll catch up with you very shortly. Right, let's move on to our big breaking news this evening, and it's big, that's an understatement. Iran has shot down an F-15E Strike Eagle. 1 crew member has been rescued, and a search is continuing for the second. It's also understood that an aircraft mobilised to support the search and rescue mission was struck by Iranian fire, causing the pilot to eject and the aircraft crashing in Kuwait. The regime has also targeted 2 Black Hawk helicopters involved in the search, and with officials stating the crew suffered minor injuries from the strike, but they are indeed now safe. In just 48 hours, Iran has caused 2 military aircraft to crash and hit 2 Black Hawk helicopters in a single day of this conflict. Less than 48 hours, by the way, after President Trump said this.
And the country has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat. They were the bully of the Middle East, but they're the bully no longer.
And tonight, it's understood the President's national security team is meeting in the White House as we speak. I think they've been there all day, with the President himself being kept informed about the unfolding situation. Iran has also reportedly rejected an American proposal for a 48-hour ceasefire. That is according to the semi-official Fars news agency, which is linked to the state. Earlier today, though, Iranians were offered a reward if they handed over any enemy pilot.
Please pay attention. Dear viewers, please pay attention. Dear and honourable people, if you capture the enemy pilot or pilots and hand them over alive to the law enforcement and military forces, you will receive a valuable reward.
Reports suggest the Iranians are offering a $60,000 reward for any pilot handed over to IRGC authorities. But elsewhere, domestically, former Prime Minister Boris Johnson has also lashed out at the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, writing in his column for the Daily Mail that Britain, quote, can't pretend this is not our war, adding that it is a delusion to think we can stick our heads in the sand, as Starmer has tried to do, and it's an absolute delusion to think there is some European-only substitute for NATO. We should remember the sheer scale of the American commitment to us and to our security. Well, it's all kicking off. So joining me in Washington is my panel, the political strategist Tiffany Marie Brannan and Democrat strategist Mally Smith and Christo Foufas in London. Good evening, ladies, gents, everybody in between. Tiffany, ladies first. This is probably one of the most serious days for US aircraft in Iran. We've had the downed F-15, 1 pilot rescued, 1 pilot crucially still missing, and the race is on to find them.
Yeah, and what, as that clip shows, these are not people that are going to play nice. If they find that pilot, his life or her life is in very serious danger. And, coming off the heels of that speech that President Trump gave last night, I think we consider the fact that this has been sort of the worst case scenario for PR I think we have today, where, of all things that could happen after you give a speech like that. But this is bound to happen. Winston Churchill said, never believe that war will be smooth or easy. And this is a war, whether we want to acknowledge that or not.
Yeah, so Mally, this F-15E Strike Eagle was down somewhere earlier this morning, American time, around southwest Iran, from Iranian fire. Yeah. It is the first time Iranians have taken down a US jet. We had 3, I think there were F-15s downed in Kuwait earlier in the conflicts, but that was due to friendly fire. So this is significant.
Yeah, so far we've seen the US's military supremacy really be unquestioned, where thank God we haven't really had any downed jets, or we've had 13 US soldiers pass away, unfortunately, but for the most part it's mostly been us taking control from the sky. But this shows you how volatile war is. President Trump gave a speech this week talking about how he hopes that it'll be a 2 to 3 week engagement and that the U.S. can transition out of this. And this shows you that with war, the enemy has a say. Sometimes things can spiral out of control. And not only do I hope that we rescue the U.S. soldier, because as Tiffany said, I don't want to think what Iran will do to a U.S. soldier they've just captured. But second, if they have the U.S. soldier, we kind of have 2 options. First, it increases their negotiating status, because they're going to have that as a bargaining chip. And then second, if we don't negotiate with them and we want to get this soldier back, which we obviously do, it's going to require some sort of special forces operation within the country, which again has its own risks of casualties.
I know you've been against this war because you cite, of course, Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan,
You're
and
actually my talking points.
Yeah, and I agree with you. But in this instance, it's a weapons system officer that is still missing from this F-15. The pilot has been recovered successfully. We understand they're okay. Would you support now boots on the ground to recover this man or woman, whoever they are?
That's a good question. I think I would support a limited engagement to rescue him, but I think it would have to be taken with extreme care to make sure we, A, don't have any more casualties, and then B, you could see some terrible situation where we go in to rescue and then they capture another soldier because we physically have to go in. So yes, but it would be a very limited engagement.
Like a Maduro in and out, in the middle of the night, Delta Force,
yeah, that would be the hope.
Some low-flying Black Hawks,
yeah,
nobody knows they're there.
I want ninja level stealth, okay? I want them to be in and out, no one knows they're there, and you know, let's
Tiffany, what would it mean if the Iranians, say the IRGC, got their hands on this weapons systems officer, man or woman, we don't know their identity, whoever they are? What would it mean for American domestically?
I think it would be very bad for public sentiment. I think it could, I mean, on the other hand, it could really encourage people to start being pro boots on the ground, because it's one thing, we have this thing called rules and law and order when we engage with the enemy, where we are bound by certain rights, human rights. And I know Mally can probably push back on some of the waterboarding of the past, but typically speaking, we treat people with human dignity, and Iran is not bound by those same morals. Iran has no problem torturing and murdering its own citizens, let alone an American.
Yeah, indeed. Well, let's hope the US Special Forces and the rescue teams who are frantically searching for that person now, in a race, as I said, against the IRGC to find them, let's hope they get there first. And as I understand, listening to military experts today speaking out, they're saying as darkness falls, it's nearly 3 a.m. in Iran, that would favour US forces because they're just far more equipped to deal with nighttime combat missions. Christo Foufas, good morning. Thank you for joining us again on the Late Show Live. Your comments, first of all, on the missing pilot and the downed aircraft, but also Boris Johnson, his column in the Daily Mail today, saying to our dear leader, Sir Keir Starmer, whether you like it or not, Prime Minister, you are involved in this war.
Well, I'll start with Boris Johnson, whom I normally viscerally loathe. I thought he was an absolutely dreadful Prime Minister, dishonest. He lied about Brexit, lied about so many things, and I've always been very irritated by him then leaving office and standing from the sidelines bleating on about immigration when he absolutely presided over some of the highest immigration figures that we have, for instance. However, having said all of that on this, I think he's absolutely correct. I cannot believe I'm saying that, but I think you'll remember a few times on this programme I've said to you, Ben, when you've asked about our involvement in this, we needed a seat at the table. Starmer could have played this extremely smart and said to Donald Trump, we will be your ally, we will give you our bases, and had a seat at the table to actually ask Donald Trump what the plan was, be involved in what that plan was with our experience in the Middle East and obviously having fought there before. And that is exactly what Boris Johnson is saying, that this isn't some remote war that's going on. Our energy prices are being affected by this war. We've alienated our biggest ally. It has not been a moment of statesmanship or statecraft for the United Kingdom. And of course, the United Kingdom has played a massive part in many of the regimes that are over there, in the formation of those regimes, and our allies who have invested billions here in the United Kingdom being attacked right, left and centre by Iran. So we're already involved, but what Starmer has done by pontificating and being wibbly-wobbly and the lawyer rather than the leader has basically just alienated himself from being involved in those conversations.
OK, yeah, it's going to be an interesting week ahead for Keir Starmer and the Labour government. How do they react to this growing crisis in the Strait of Hormuz? As Boris Johnson has said, whether you like it or not, you're involved. When you're meeting with business leaders in Downing Street on how to tackle the energy crisis, and you're, as reports suggested last night, considering drilling again in the North Sea, was it the Rosebank site or Jackdaw? You are involved, you are reacting to it, and you are feeling the effects of it. Christo, thank you. Hang tight. We'll catch up with you in just a sec. With me now is defence analyst and former British Army officer Simon Diggins. Simon, good morning. Thanks for joining the Late Show Live. What will US Special Forces be doing as we speak now, if you could enlighten us, please, to recover this downed serviceman from the F-15?
Ben, good morning to you all. I think the first thing they would do is make sure they've got all the information. The first thing you try and do before you launch a military operation is understand the challenge that you're up against. The fact they're successfully, I'm delighted, successfully recovered one of the crew members. You said it was on the pilot rather than the weapons officer. It's excellent. There'll be some debrief going on about what the information had, where the aircraft were exploded, therefore where the pilots actually ejected, and they'll be trying then to look at what they've done. I've not the slightest doubt that all surveillance and reconnaissance assets they can bring to this are now being targeted onto the various areas, and they'll be developing various options as to how to extract him. And obviously, given what the Iranians have done, which is put a bounty on the other crew member, they'll be trying to do this as quickly as they reasonably can. But intelligence and understand the picture is the first stage.
And can you just tell us, please, Tiffany Marie Brannan, my guest tonight on the panel, she was saying, I dread to think what would happen if the Iranians got hold of this service member. Is it, I mean, excuse me for being ignorant to this, but is it a given? Is it a cert that they would come to harm, or would the Iranians be more shrewd than that?
The Iranians probably be a bit more shrewd than that. They'll try and get whatever leverage they can out of it. I mean, they're all through it. Both countries all the countries involved are theoretically bound by, and Tiffany's correct here, by international humanitarian law, the Geneva Convention, and Iran has signed up to that. Whether they would obey that or not is always moot. I think what they would tend to do is try and see what can they get out of this in terms of negotiation. And I mean, right at the back, I'm sure, and President Trump has referenced this a number of times, is the kind of horror show that was the U.S. embassy siege literally at the fag end of President Carter's presidency, and the way in which the hostages were used then. So I think what they've been trying to do is avoid that issue, get this crew member out, and therefore stop him being used or her being used as a lever in any kind of negotiations that the Iranians may wish to indulge in with the Americans.
Okay, Simon, and just the longer this search goes on, we have to, again, going back to Mali's point, is it a given also that the longer this goes on, the longer this service person goes unaccounted for, that it increases the chances of boots on the ground in Iran, and not just special forces who are probably on the ground already looking for this person, but a wider, I mean, there's 10,000 troops who have been sent on their way to the Middle East. I think there's a total of maybe 60,000 US service personnel now in the Middle East, around 10 to 15,000 more than normal. Would that increase the likelihood of a wide-scale ground invasion?
It's not necessarily. I think one of the challenges any commander's got is to deal properly with what is very much a serious incident which has strategic implications, without it knocking off balance the overall operational plan. And that, of course, is the bit which President Trump has kept very close to his chest. I suspect that the bombing campaign that America and Israel continue to operate will continue to operate, and they'll also be looking at what their options are for boots on the ground. And we've had lots of speculation whether it be trying to seize a strategic asset like Clark Island, or try and do something about the IRGC naval element who are blocking the Straits of Hormuz. So I think planning for that will go on. But you're right. This sort of incident does have the possibility, at least, of knocking people's attention away from it. And the challenge for the US commanders, and indeed for their commander-in-chief, President Trump, is of keeping an eye on the ball and what they're trying to achieve overall. Looking after this crew member, but obviously it's important to recover them, but not be in a position where the overall balance of the campaign is lost looking at. That's a bit hard, and it's harsh on the individual. But that is the nature of this of warfare. You know, you look after your men, look after your people, but there is a mission, and the mission will always come first.
Simon, thank you so much. That was great. Simon Diggins, defence analyst and former British Army officer, as well as the F-15 that was downed earlier today. Of course, there was an A-10 Thunderbolt Warthog ground attack aircraft that was shot down by Iranian fire and crashed in Kuwait. As we understand, the pilot was successfully recovered with minor injuries, and also unverified, but just extraordinary footage on social media of seemingly Iranian police firing at two Black Hawk helicopters who were circling the crash site of the F-15 looking for that second service person, firing on the Black Hawks with pistols. We understand the Black Hawks are fine. Pistol fire shouldn't be much of a problem for them, but just an extraordinary day really for the US military. Let me know your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say, and we'll bring you updates as the show goes on. Right, still ahead on the Late Show Live tonight.
Nobody's ever escaped from Alcatraz, and just represented something strong having to do with law and order. We need law and order in this country.
President Trump has put in a $150 million bid to reopen the infamous Alcatraz prison almost 60 years after closure. I think we could do one of those back home in Britain. But also tonight,
Easter is a moment of hope. A reminder that even in the darkest times, renewal is possible, and that light can overcome darkness.
Well, we covered last night how we had nothing from the King, but today politicians are releasing their Easter messages. But why does it seem politics is being put before faith? I'll reveal all next. Don't go anywhere.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Late Show Live. Now, Good Friday to you. It's Easter weekend, of course. Politicians are starting to release their own Easter messages. And tonight, the Prime Minister, although he's not released a video like some of the others, he has released this statement. He has said, courtesy Keir Starmer, Easter is a celebration of hope, new life and renewal. Across the country, churches and Christian communities quietly and tirelessly support families, children and neighbours, offering comfort, bringing people together and standing alongside those who need it most. It is precisely that spirit of service which exemplifies national renewal and reflects the very heart of Christ's example. This Easter comes at a time of real anxiety for many people. Conflicts abroad, pressures at home and uncertainty about the future weigh heavily on families and households. In moments like these, says the Prime Minister, faith offers reassurance and grounding, a reminder that we are not alone and that hope can still take root even in difficult soil. Our country is at its best when we choose community over division, kindness over indifference and service over self-interest. I thank everyone who gives their time through churches and Christian charities and wish Christians all across the UK and around the world a very happy Easter filled with peace, hope and the promise of new life. Very nice. That was the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. And this is what Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has just said herself.
Easter is a moment of hope. A reminder that even in the darkest times, renewal is possible and that light can overcome darkness. At the heart of the Christian faith is a story of redemption, of second chances, of perseverance, and of the belief that better days lie ahead. In a world that can often feel uncertain, perhaps even bleak, with conflicts in the Middle East and Ukraine and challenges at home, that message matters more than ever. Across the country, we also see the cultural value of Christianity in the quiet, everyday impact of that faith in acts of kindness, service, and sacrifice in our communities. I wish Christians and all people across the United Kingdom a very happy Easter.
Well, joining me with their reaction to those Easter messages is Labour councillor Sebastian Salek and the former Conservative MP, friend of the show, Louise Mensch. Good morning to you both. Happy Easter to you. Louise, ladies first, I'll start with you. I guess this is par for the course. There is a question today about whether Easter has been politicised, but I don't really see that. I'm fine with this. Are you?
Oh, Ben, you're making me feel guilty because you said what a nice message from Keir Starmer, and I was just thinking, good Lord, that man is a spod. I'm sure he means well, but that honestly came across like a party political broadcast, and I think I'd slightly nodded off by the time you'd got to the end of reading it there.
Maybe it's the way I was reading it in my dull tones.
No, not at all, not at all. You softened it greatly. He means well, Keir Starmer, and I don't object to him putting out an Easter message. That is fine. But honestly, it veered off into just typical politician speak. For example, he went on about service, etc. That's not the message of Easter. The message of Easter is the redemption of the human race under our Lord Jesus Christ. It is the most holy day in the Christian calendar. And just for once, I believe that Keir and Kemi are both Christians. Just for once, it would be nice to have a message actually about the holiday, instead of saying, oh, isn't it great that we all serve each other? And for example, he said, Keir Starmer, that in times like these, the message of service, etc. Well, those of us who actually believe would say that faith is a comfort in all times, and not just in times of war, and not just in bad times. I think politicians do themselves no favours when they try to be priests or vicars. Out of the two, I have to say that I preferred Kemi's message, and that is, you might say, because I'm a Tory, but actually I think it was better pitched. She stood in front of a church, she delivered it slowly, she sounded like she meant it. The nitpicking that I have to do with Kemi is at the end of her quite good statement, actually. She said, I wish a happy Easter to Christians all over the United Kingdom and to everybody in the UK. Now, I believe I'm not particularly woke, but if somebody wished me, for example, Eid Mubarak or Happy Hanukkah or please enjoy your Diwali, Louise, I would be slightly bemused because none of those are for my faith. What is wrong with saying, I wish all Christians in the UK and all those who celebrate it a very happy Easter? Because, of course, there are secular people who just like the Easter Bunny, etc. That's what I would have done if I was Kemi. But to be slightly less curmudgeonly, I suppose it is really a good thing that the leaders of our two major parties are out there wishing Christians a happy Easter. However badly they do it, at least they're trying. Let's try and get into the spirit of the season and say, well done for trying, guys. You know, better than nothing.
Yeah, well said. OK, Sebastian, Louise is thinking I'm being too soft, too woke on Keir Starmer there. So I guess my criticism could be, why didn't you release a video? It doesn't take long. Why release some sort of some statement which Louise says is a bit dull and robotic?
It's about the message rather than the medium, isn't it, Ben? I mean, I think there are many ways of putting out these kinds of things. It could be a tweet, it could be semaphore, it could be all sorts. As long as the message is there, that's the important thing. And look, these are always going to be relatively safe, relatively anodyne, because it's about wishing people well. If there's a Easter message that is edgy and making news, then you're in trouble as a politician. So they're both wise to keep them safe, even that means they might be slightly boring. Easter is a time of reflection, of, yes, celebration once we get to Sunday, and for many people who aren't Christian but do celebrate Easter, a time of fun and having a nice time and marking a point in the calendar that for them matters, even if they're not through a particularly religious lens. So, yes, look, neither of these are thrilling bits of prose, but I think they've largely hit the nail on the head for the brief that is put out a brief message and keep people happy.
Just briefly, Seb, as well, what about the King? Why did he neglect Easter this time round after having given a nod to Ramadan just some weeks ago?
So the King has never put out a video for Easter. The Queen did it once during her entire reign, and that was during COVID in 2020. He didn't put a message out for Ramadan either this year. He has done, I think, last year. So to make that comparison is slightly unfair. Look, I think the important thing is he is celebrating Easter. He was at the Maundy service earlier in the week. He will be celebrating it with his family, as he always does, as the supreme head of the Church of England. You would expect him to. So yeah, perhaps a false comparison, and I think our king is as religious as he has always been.
Yeah, I hear that. I know that it's not par for the course. It's something they don't do often. But Louise, surely the argument yesterday was from Christians that we are at a time of need. It's a very chaotic time in everybody's lives all around the world. And when we have iftars in Trafalgar Square and so on, and there's lots of concern going on about the so-called act of dominance from some sects of the Muslim community. I think lots of people were saying yesterday, we wanted something for this Easter from the King, just a message. He put a message out for Ramadan, maybe not a video, but he put a tweet out at least.
I don't know. Ramadan, after all, is like the Muslim version of Lent. You know, it's a long period of reflection and penance. It actually isn't a celebration. The celebration for Muslims is Eid, the feast that comes at the end of Ramadan. And I think what people are looking for more than anything is tradition. We've just discussed whether or not these two politicians are boring. I agree with your other guest. You know, look, it's well-meaning. I'm not going to poke too many holes in it. I thought they could have done a little better, or it made me wish I was their speechwriter. But in the end, what we get from the King and what we've always got from the royal family is an example of doing and not talking. And perhaps that is what everybody is looking for. What is traditional for, as your other guest says, for the royal family? It is to go to the service on Easter Day, to spend time, to shake hands with the people, to turn up in the Queen will wear a pretty hat, I've no doubt. And everybody talks about that, and that is exactly what we should do. I think that it is playing into, there's a lot of people out there, especially on social media, terminally online people that want to attack the British monarchy because it's a very great asset to this country. For example, the state visit is going to smooth a lot of feathers with President Trump. So the soft power that the monarchy represents is actually very, very important to Britain and shouldn't be underestimated. When these people attack the King for not doing something that the monarchy has never done, I would ask your viewers to think, is this really in good faith? Or are they actually trying to undermine people's faith in the monarchy? The King is a gentle, quiet, old man that has turned into the nation's grandpa. A bit like his mother became the nation's granny, and we were all so sad when she died. I just want to see the traditional King do the traditional walk and go to the traditional service, and that'll do me. And I think most British people that aren't online all the time on social media and getting outraged about nothing would probably agree with that.
OK. Twitter is not the real world, that's what you're saying. Louise, thank you so much. Yeah. Seb, thank you as well for staying up with us on the Late Show Live, appreciate it. You will be interested to know that President Trump has just released his own Easter message. I wonder how it compares to Keir Starmer's and Kemi Badenoch's. Let's take a look.
This Holy Week, I'm proud to join with Christians across the country and around the world to celebrate the most glorious miracle in all of time, the resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. In his life, Christ displayed true humility. In his death, he modeled true love. And in his resurrection from the tomb, he proved that even death itself will not silence those who place their trust in Almighty God. As it says in Gospel of John, for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, for whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. Eternal life, such beautiful words. This Easter, millions of Christians all over the globe will be reminded that because of what Jesus did on the cross, all of us can live every day with hope in God's promise, knowing that in the end, evil and wickedness will not prevail. In the spirit of joy and renewal this Easter, we also celebrate the extraordinary resurrection of faith and religion in America. As I have often said, to be a great nation, you must have religion and you must have God. In churches across the nation on Sunday, the pews will be fuller, younger, and more faithful than they have at any time in many, many years. Religion is growing again in our country for the first time in decades. Happy Easter to all. May God bless you. May God bless the United States of America. Our country is doing so well like never before. Thank you.
Well, there we go. President Trump, that was released in the last 5 minutes or so. Let's get some instant reaction from our panel here, Tiffany Marie Brannan and Mally Smith. Tiffany, President Trump there saying you don't have a nation if you don't have God and religion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I love this speech. It was so much more personal than you see a lot of the other politicians putting out. You know, John Adams, right, you go back to our founding fathers, he said that you cannot have a nation we were created for a moral people, all of our founding documents, and you can't have that without being a religious people. Alexis de Tocqueville said the same thing when he came to see us and said that without faith there is no morality, essentially. So when you look at where we are as a nation, what we believe in, and what you saw there with President Trump's speech was a man that actually believed what he was saying. He actually appears to have a personal relationship with God and understand what it is to be a Christian and a leader of a Christian nation.
He was reading from AutoCue. Does that matter?
No.
No.
Someone wrote it.
And I think I spoke to his pastor, Pastor Mark Burns, at CPAC. I think maybe you were there. And he was telling me that President Trump, after narrowly escaping with his life in Butler, Pennsylvania, the assassination attempt, he has become more ingrained in his faith and closer to God.
And I think since Charlie. You know, since Charlie Kirk was shot, I think that's really changed things.
I think it's a little strange we're ranking Easter messages from different politicians. I would say they're all kind of boring, but it's a message about Easter. I don't think that's going to be the most exciting speech someone's going to give. I think Keir Starmer's was probably the most boring. I think that's probably because it was a little too long. I think he could have gotten that same point, but he could have edited it down. But President Trump, that is not as exciting sometimes as his tweets on holidays. Sometimes he'll have tweets that are like, Happy Easter, even to the radical losers who are trying to take me out. It'll be interesting to see if we get any tweets like that in the coming days. But yeah, I think they were all fine and served their purpose.
Why didn't Keir Starmer do a video? That's my only criticism.
I don't know. I mean, and Tiffany would agree, usually in America with presidents or people running for office, they usually film video messages for different religious celebrations, from Hanukkah to Ramadan.
We cover it all.
We cover it all.
It would take him 2 seconds, you know. He does all these videos of, you know, all these he's got a big social media team.
Huge.
You know, cosplaying as some sort of military general with helicopters trying to copy sort of the US stuff. He does all that stuff. But why not just release an Easter video?
Yeah, it's a completely missed opportunity, and really I think it's a shame. You look at England, you know, the Romans introduced Christianity to the UK back in the Roman era. You have St. Augustine, you know, converting the people back in the 6th century. You have the King Henry creating the Church of England in the 16th century. England is a Christian nation. Unfortunately, we're kind of walking away from that.
Okay, great stuff. Well, if you listen to King Charles, he is the defender of all faiths, not the faith. So that's another conversation. I mean, would you want your king, the head of the Church of England, to be defender of all faiths?
No,
well,
I want
we're
him
American.
to be...
We don't want a king.
No, well,
there are no
you've got
kings
one.
here, Mally. There are no kings here.
You've got one, and he's in the White House, whether you like it or not. No, I'm kidding. Right, gbnews.com/.
We need to protest. People like Ben.
Yeah. Right, still ahead on the Late Show Live tonight. Great story this. The murder of a teenager more than 50 years ago has finally been solved. I'll bring you the latest on that very shortly. But first tonight.
Nobody's ever escaped from Alcatraz and just represented something strong having to do with law and order. We need law and order in this country.
Is it time to reopen the infamous Alcatraz prison? President Trump thinks it is. We'll be getting stuck into that next. Is it a possibility? Will it really be happening? This is the Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
We'll be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it?
The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered.
Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m, only on GB News.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nobody's ever escaped from Alcatraz and just represented something strong having to do with law and order. We need law and order in this country.
That was President Trump speaking a few months ago about his vision to reopen the infamous Alcatraz prison 60 years after its closure. And here's a question for you as well. Who would you throw in Alcatraz if we had our own Alcatraz in the UK? I can think of one or two people. Well, tonight, the President is seeking $152 million to bring Alcatraz back into use as a state-of-the-art secure facility for violent offenders. Well, prison to me and you. Once home to infamous prisoners such as Al Capone in the 30s, Alcatraz closed in the 1960s after becoming 3 times more expensive to run than other prisons. My panel are with me now. They're back with me, Tiffany and Mally. Why did it close, Mally? Do you know?
Just
the cost.
Closed because of the cost. And where's Doge when you need it? Because reopening this is a dumb idea. So to just get it up and functioning and running, it would cost somewhere between $500 million to $2 billion. The amount of prisoners it can actually keep is around 320 people.
But it would be the most violent offenders, though. It's quality,
Yes.
not quantity.
Yes, but we have high security prisons already.
But they're falling apart.
Well, that's another reason we shouldn't open up this and spend $2 billion investing in a prison that only houses 300 people. We should invest in prisons. As a Democrat, I don't really want to say that. But we should fix up the dilapidated prisons instead of investing in this new one. And then lastly, I'll say it's not just the $2 billion to get it up and running. It's incredibly expensive just to maintain because then you have to ship by boat everything into the prison. Like the food, medication.
That's what Amazon Prime is for, Mally.
They got drones
Jeff Bezos
now.
can
This
do
is
it.
a crazy idea.
Can you not just put the prisoners in there and just not feed them? Especially if they're violent, horrible child rapists and killers as well. I wouldn't have a problem with
Look, we need to bring back insane asylums, all right? I love the optics of Alcatraz the same way I loved, the alligator Alcatraz. I 100% have that hat, by the way, and I wear it proudly through airports. But I think that they're looking for interesting and good optics. I think it would make sense to put the most violent offenders away. And honestly, you look at what's going on with all the prisons in America right now, they're falling apart, they're dilapidated. And what we could be doing to avoid all this would be helping, children's literacy rates, because we know as a nation that we can measure how many prison beds we need per state based on the literacy rates of kindergartners.
That's fascinating.
Tiffany, I agree with you. So let's not spend $2 billion investing in Alcatraz and invest in our schools. And then the last thing I'll say, it'll also cost money because it is a tourist destination and it gets 1.4 million visitors a year.
And it's off San Francisco, right?
Yeah, you can go visit.
I think I've seen it.
San Francisco can fall in the ocean, okay? Gavin Newsom destroyed that state. Let's just break it off and push it out.
I have to say, San Francisco is probably the biggest dive I've visited in the United States. Anyone know, is this going to be government-run, this system? Because most prisons, correct me if I'm wrong, in America are run by private companies. Is that right?
It's a split, I believe, and I think the difference is government contracting versus location. I think some of them maybe probably permitted differently for federal versus state. So it depends what kind of, if it's a big federal, very high bad guy rate prison, I think it's different.
Prisons and then there are public prisons. I don't know the breakdown of each. There's a lot of criticism that private prisons are usually much worse run than public prisons because you have the profit incentive where you have the private prisons want to make money off the detainees.
Let's get the thoughts of Christo Fufas in London. Christo, who would you put in a British Alcatraz if we had one? Maybe one on the Isle of Wight or something, the Isle of Man? Any names?
Sadiq Khan, obviously. Absolutely. Shove him in there.
Well, they'd have to have done something illegal, of course.
Amen.
Well, yeah, and obviously there's no thought that he has done anything illegal, but I would still just like to put him in there, please. Can we just leave him in there and he can just, be mayor from there? He could be mayor of the prison. He could be mayor of that prison and then he'll still have a job and he can preside over it. But by the way, I think Donald Trump was a little bit wrong. Dare I say this about Donald Trump, because, I might end up excommunicated or blacklisted from ever entering the United States. But Frank Morris, John Anglin and Clarence Anglin, it is thought that they did escape from Alcatraz via the roof, though their bodies, they were never found, and it was presumed that they may well have drowned trying to actually swim away. But they did manage to disappear from Alcatraz. So I think that probably counts as an escape.
Yeah, probably. I think there's been one or two. I would much welcome this. I don't think people... let's talk about Axel Ruda-Buchanan, Ian Huntley, he's gone now. But all those kinds of people, the American versions of them, they deserve to be put into some faraway island somewhere where they definitely can't escape. I would say, Christo, in the UK, well, nobody escapes prisons, but we had one or two very infamous examples just in the past 12 months.
Yeah, of course, and that was, I think it was Wandsworth Prison where we saw someone escape from there, and I think there's been all sorts of problems with Wandsworth Prison as well. And it's interesting, actually, because we're talking about prisons, just to bring you a story from one of the front pages this morning that might interest you, especially in the context of everything that we've seen in the United Kingdom over the last few days with all the lawlessness. Labour is apparently the front page of the Telegraph telling us that they will unleash up to 12,000 shoplifters. Up to 12,000 of the most prolific shoplifters will avoid jail.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we have a really quick break, and after the break we'll get stuck into the papers, including that story. That is a big story. The headline, as you said, on the front of the Times, Labour to unleash up to 12,000 shoplifters. If you thought California was bad, well, I think maybe it's been scrapped now, where, what was it, Tiffany, a $1,000 shoplifting limit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is that still the case?
I'm not sure, but probably.
Wouldn't surprise me. Well, Labour apparently are thinking of doing the same. Back in just a tick on The Late Show Live. Don't go anywhere.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Late Show Live. NASA has declared it's entered a new space race as 4 astronauts, of course, are on their way to the moon now on their 10-day mission to slingshot around the back of the moon, the furthest any humans have travelled into space. The launch was epic. They've just released some brand new pictures that the astronauts took earlier today, and they are, well, they're amazing. They're just beautiful, and I'll share those with you in just a second. For now, though, let's delve into some of the main stories on the front pages tomorrow. Joining me is my panel, Tiffany and Mally, still, they haven't gone anywhere, and Christo is back home in Britain. Christo, you take it away. The story you were just talking about, the Labour and shoplifters, front page of the Times, I believe.
As we were discussing, I think we need our own Alcatraz here, because the front page of the Telegraph this morning reporting that 12,000 of Britain's most prolific shoplifters will avoid jail under Labour's new laws, scrapping most prison sentences of under 1 year. Judges and magistrates only imposing jail sentences of under 1 year in the most exceptional circumstances as part of the Sentencing Act passed last year. That means, according to Ministry of Justice data, that about 98% of shoplifters who are currently in jail would qualify for alternative community punishments under this new law. Now, of course, this comes in the week that we saw this huge amount of unrest in Clapham over 2 nights, actually, Tuesday night and I think last Saturday or Sunday evening as well, where there was some looting from shops, there was a massive amount of unrest, and of course this comes in the context of the last 24 hours where 2 of the directors actually of Marks and Spencer's have come out and said, look, Sadiq Khan, you're not doing enough to reassure us about shoplifting. You're not doing enough to stop shoplifting in London. We don't care what the data is saying. We don't care what you're saying about all of these figures. Shoplifting is costing us a fortune. It's costing us millions, and you've got to get a handle on it. So this is obviously going to be grim reading for the bosses of M&S today.
Yeah, and we had correct me if I'm wrong, we had a great guest from M&S. I can't remember his role, but he was on Breakfast this morning with Stephen and Ellie, basically saying, look, this is out of control. We've spent so much money investing in guards and cameras and this and that, and nothing's working, and it's really affecting the business.
He
so it's
was,
in the Telegraph.
Hawksby, his name was, and he was the Director of External Affairs for Marks and Spencer's. He did the media round this morning, including, of course, GB News, saying exactly that. Like, what's the point? Why is the onus all on us to be doing all of this? And this Marks and Spencer's, I mean, Ben Leo, that Marks and Spencer's is where I buy my chicken Kiev, I would like to say, this one in Clapham. So it was, you know, it was very close to home, this story for me. And but genuinely, I mean, it was absolute chaos what they were seeing, and there's a wider problem with this, of course, because Marks and Spencer's a very, very established brand, but this is going to be affecting a lot of small businesses and a lot of people who would think, well, actually, what's the point in starting a business in this country? Because you know, someone could just go in and steal stuff, and there is a perception that Britain is completely lawless.
Yeah, it feels like we're going the way, I get the sense watching from afar, it feels like we're going the way of what we see, Tiffany, in California, where people could just waltz into shops, fill black bags and walk out, and people, security guards, won't challenge them because they're in fear of losing their jobs.
They have. I was just talking to someone in California where it's awful because you see these security guards that are losing their jobs, that are unwilling to even chase criminals because they will be fired for even attempting to carry out law and order. And that's a society that is without virtue, that is a society that is falling into chaos, and a society that frankly isn't American.
Yeah, and Mally, Rudy Giuliani did it right in New York back in the day, broken window theory, you go after every small misdemeanor and that handles the big stuff, and he cracked it.
Well, I certainly think that it shouldn't just be lawless and there's no consequences. I think for me, though, I do think in regards to especially younger offenders, getting them into programs that can help correct them and reform them compared to just throwing them in jail and locking away the key is kind of where I'm at on this.
Christo, I think we need tough love. I think you need to nail this stuff down. Same with things such as knife crime. Just get a grip of it. But the problem is, we're stuffed, Christo, in Britain because there's no prisons. Paedophiles are literally being allowed to walk free. Hugh Edwards of the BBC had various bits of child abuse on his phone, including Category A images, moving images of a 7-year-old being abused, and yet he's allowed to walk free because there's no prison space. 10 seconds, Christo, just in response to that, literally. Yeah,
well, I absolutely agree with your broken windows theory, but we're doing neither. We're not putting serious offenders in prison, we're not putting low-level offenders in prison either, and that's why it's anarchy.
Yeah. OK. The Ministry of Justice has said the government inherited a prison system on the brink of collapse. The suspension of short sentences is part of wider urgent reforms to ensure the system isn't being pushed to the brink of collapse ever again. We're delivering one of the biggest expansions of tagging in British history, backed by 100 million in funding, which will target shoplifters, among other offenders. Back in just a tick on The Late Show Live.
Our armed forces have been extraordinary. There's never been anything like it.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a fine start to the day, but later on Storm Dave takes hold, bringing us a spell of very wet and windy weather, multiple weather warnings in force. But this morning it's very much the calm before the storm, even some brighter spells across many eastern areas. But this soon being replaced by cloud as the storm starts to push through. Some very heavy spells of rain across Northern Ireland and later on into Scotland and northern parts of England. And those winds really picking up by the time we reach the afternoon, particularly in the west. But across much of England and Wales, it should remain largely dry. Still quite windy, but feeling warm in any sheltered spots. Highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius. Now, it's really into this evening that we see those strong winds really pick up. A chance we could see peak gusts of around 80 to 90 miles per hour in exposed areas of Scotland, and with some spells of snow that could even lead to some blizzard conditions. Some also very heavy spells of wind and rain across Northern Ireland and many western areas, still remaining largely dry across eastern England, but still very cloudy and still rather windy. So a chance of some severe gales through the course of the evening, still some very heavy spells of rain, some heavy showers elsewhere across England and Wales, but the storm mostly moves into the North Sea through the early hours of Sunday, and winds will start to lighten off from the west, but there still could be some heavy showers at times and still very strong gusty winds around any eastern coasts. So temperatures widely in the mid to low single figures first thing on Easter Sunday, but it's certainly going to be feeling chilly out there in the strong winds. Eventually, we do say goodbye to Storm Dave, any winds largely easing away. Still a fairly brisk westerly wind on Easter Sunday, and it's going to be a day of sunshine and showers, but still lots of dry weather around, maybe even some sunshine by the afternoon. Particularly good if you're heading out for any Easter egg hunts. Feeling a little bit chillier, highs reaching around 13 degrees Celsius.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
We'll be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it? The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered. Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement? You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, live from Washington, D.C. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on Earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you. No apologies, no hesitation, epic fury.
Breaking news tonight, an American pilot has been rescued after Iran shot down a fighter jet, with a frantic race now continuing into the night to find a second serviceman. US Special Forces on the ground racing against Iranian forces to try and find that second serviceman. 2 rescue aircraft are also believed separately to have faced fire from the regime, with another crashing in Kuwait. And right now, GB News understands the national security team is gathered in the White House, with President Trump continuing to receive updates on the situation. Also tonight,
in the end, evil and wickedness will not prevail.
Evil will not prevail. You heard the man. President Trump releases his Easter message reflecting on the sacrifices made by Jesus Christ and reaffirming a message of hope. Amen. Elsewhere, cold case solved. The murder of a teenager more than 50 years ago has finally been cracked, with it confirmed that she was a victim of one of the world's most notorious serial killers. Meanwhile, the race is on in space. NASA declares it's entered a new space race as 4 astronauts hit a milestone on their 10-day moon mission. And I can't wait to show you these new pictures of Earth have been released. I'm Ben Leo and this is The Late Show Live. Hello, good morning, good Friday to you. Hope you're well. This is The Late Show Live. Joining me in Washington, D.C. is my panel, political strategist and podcast host Tiffany Marie Brannan and the Democrat strategist Maddie Smith. And in London, journalist and broadcaster, house husband's favourite, Christo Foufas. Hello, Christo. Good stuff. Right, let's move on to our main breaking news this evening, and it's pretty big. Iran has shot down an F-15E Strike Eagle. One crew member has been rescued and a search is continuing for the second. It's a frantic race to find that second service person. US Special Forces are on the ground. Iranian forces are also looking for them. It's also understood separately that an aircraft mobilised to support the search and rescue mission was struck by Iranian fire, causing the pilot to eject and the aircraft to crash in Kuwait. The regime has also targeted 2 Black Hawk helicopters involved in the search and rescue, with officials stating the crew suffered minor injuries from the strike, but they are safe and okay. Also, NBC News is tonight reporting that the F-15 jet that was shot down over Iran is believed to have been based out of the United Kingdom. And in just 24 hours, Iran has caused 2 military aircraft to crash and hit 2 Black Hawk helicopters in a single day of this conflict. Less than 48 hours after President Trump said this.
And the country has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat. They were the bully of the Middle East, but they're the bully no longer.
Well, in Washington, D.C. tonight, actually all day, it's understood the president's national security team has been meeting in the White House, with the president himself reportedly spending his entire day today in the Oval Office or the Oval Office dining room, whilst he's being kept informed of the unfolding situation. Iran, meanwhile, they have also reportedly rejected an American proposal for a 48-hour ceasefire. That is, though, according to the semi-official Fars news agency, which is linked to the regime, so take of that what you will. Earlier today, Iranians were offered a reward if they handed over any American pilot.
Please pay attention. Dear viewers, please pay attention. Dear and honourable people, if you capture the enemy pilot or pilots and hand them over alive to the law enforcement and military forces, you will receive a valuable reward.
Back home in Blighty, former Prime Minister Boris Johnson has also lashed out at the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, writing in the Daily Mail that Britain, quote, can't pretend this is not our war, adding that it's a delusion to think we can stick our heads in the sand, as Starmer has tried to do, and it's an absolute delusion to think there is some European-only substitute for NATO. We should remember, says Boris, the sheer scale of the American commitment to us and our security. My panel are back with me, political strategist and podcast host Tiffany Marie Brannan and the Democrat strategist Maddie Smith. Christo is down the line in London as well. Tiffany, the pilot was recovered by US forces. It's the weapons engineer on the downed F-15 is still missing. It's now the early hours of the morning in Iran, maybe 3, 4 in the morning. The race is on.
Yes, the race is on. This is the treasure hunt that no one wanted to go on. And, you know, we need to recover him. We need to do it quickly, and we need to do it quietly. And we need to also remember that this is a war. This is not, you know, some little skirmish that we can try to brush it off as, but it is a necessary war, and it is one that if we can shut it down and get this pilot or the specialist recovered and get, all of these things finished in the next few weeks, I think it will be very successful long-term for America and for our people. But incidences like this, they really can cause, I think, public sentiment to be lost.
Mali, I dread to think what would happen if and when the Iranians get hold of this downed F-15 weapons engineer.
Yeah, I mean, I hope to God we can get him and then we can end this war. The White House wants to increase defense spending to $1.5 trillion. That's an increase by 40%. And they want to increase the spending by cutting spending on programs that help working families. The cuts they want to do to fund this war effort is $52 million in TSA funding, $82 million from USDA's Rural Business Service. This is a program that helps farmers and rural communities get jobs. $234 million from Worker Protection Agencies, an agency that helps you not die on the job. $1.6 billion from NOAA, which monitors natural disasters. $354 million to HBCUs. $5 billion from the National Institute of Health funding. $1.3 billion to FEMA grants. FEMA helps states rebuild after natural disasters. $1.1 billion in NASA funding. So that was a beautiful space launch you and your children saw. Hopefully we can continue to do those after cutting $1 billion from that program. And then $15 billion cut in renewable energy investments. And that isn't even all of the cuts. Those are just some of the cuts I wanted to highlight. So we need to end this war, and this is why President Trump is historically unpopular. We are funding a war of choice by cutting programs that help working families.
I will say he's not historically unpopular in terms of Republicans.
He is
Republicans, his base. Why should he care about Democrats who will never vote for him and want him dead?
Well, that's fine. And when you guys lose the midterms, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow.
Who's you guys? I'm not American Republican.
Well, sometimes you
Mally, I got to push back on you. First of all, those programs that you're talking about, almost all of them are DEI and woke programs that you say you love Doge. You say you love these kids and what they've done. They're almost all programs that were flagged by Doge that should have been cut because they are woke, DEI, and they're social services that have kept these people suckled to the government so that they are controllable, malleable, and will love to vote in more people that'll put them on a welfare state, okay? So not only that, but I will add that if you want to talk about the money and where it's going, we have 5 to 7% being put toward the giving raises to military personnel, which I think is pretty important, especially for someone that loves America and loves what these people are doing and understands that these people put their lives on the line every single day to keep America safe and to make her a prosperous nation. So we can complain about the money that we're taking away from these social service programs, which is really and we can put them towards something that actually matter, which are the men and women of this nation that deserve a 5 to 7% raise, while billions of dollars are going to the transgender agenda.
Well, let's be clear on a few things. First off, I'm happy for a 5 to 7% increase for U.S. military pay, but that is not where most of this money is going. It is to rearm ourselves after this misguided war of choice. And then second, it is not helping trans people to say we should fund OSHA to make sure people who work with their hands, not wonderful folks like us who
What's OSHA?
The Occupational Safety and Health Administration. So people who work with their hands, who work in manufacturing, don't die on the job. That's not a trans issue.
Okay.
This is why Republicans are losing. This is their constant switch. They always want to talk about they, them, and they don't want to talk about you.
Let's talk about the missing service person in Iran. Let's go back to that. Would you support boots on the ground widely? I know there are US special forces on the ground in Iran looking for this weapons engineer from the F-15. There are, though, 60,000, as it's been reported, US troops in the Middle East. Would you support a wider invasion to get that person back?
I mean, I think that it's going to be a necessary consideration. At the end of the day, I think we're going to be able to recover them through stealth and through a smaller operation. But I do think that President Trump putting the 60,000 troops near the war and on the front lines, I think it A, shows strength and shows seriousness, and B, shows that we are willing and able. We don't leave soldiers behind. We don't leave the men and women of America behind enemy lines, and we will come and we will rescue you.
Mali, President Trump tonight has told NBC News that nothing changes in terms of the war's schedule, 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll be done.
I just don't know about that. I think you got to monitor what's going on the ground. And if they've caught a U.S. soldier, that's certainly going to complicate things because, as Tiffany was saying, we don't want to leave anyone behind. So whether that's something we give up in the negotiation to get the soldier back or putting boots on the ground, I don't see how this doesn't complicate it. But let's hope that tonight we just rescue the soldier and we don't have to contemplate sending in a special operations force to rescue them.
OK, let's get some more on this with former Navy SEAL and Deputy Commander of US Central Command, Vice Admiral Bob Howard. Vice Admiral Bob Howard, thank you for joining the Late Show Live. Really appreciate your company. It's been one of the, I'd say, one of the well, the most troublesome days in the conflict so far for the US military. We had the downed F-15. The pilot has been rescued. One is still missing. The Warthog was downed in Kuwait. And we had Black Hawks taking, bizarrely, I'm not sure if you've seen the video, small arms fire from Iranian police. Just your thoughts on what we've seen today, please.
Well, first thought is how they brought it down. We decimated their surface-to-air threat during the 12-day war, so they've been able to reconstitute that. Now, I know that's been a primary objective of this operation. So where was it out? How did we miss that one? Or are they reconstituting that capability? So that's first and foremost. And then finding the pilot. He's been on the ground about 12 hours night. Daylight's going to break here in Tehran pretty quick. So he's had the ability to move away from where he landed, distance himself, and hide, and trying to signal and communicate. That takes on a new dimension when daylight raises. So now he's really got to be hidden well while we try to find him. And again, this is a remote part of Iran. It's down southwest of the Zagros mountain. It's kind of dispersed. They showed films of people out looking for him. A lot of places for him to go and hide till we can find him. And if we need to put boots on the ground to do that, we can do that. We can put those groups in quickly. We can provide them air support. As long as we know there's no additional surface-to-air capability, we can hold ground to enable the recovery of this pilot.
Bob, just with your experience, what is, how are pilots, and in this case it's the weapons officer who is missing still, the pilot has been rescued. In case of downed personnel from jets, what kind of training are they given? What are they told to do? What will the person who's missing now be doing and trying to achieve? And also, just additionally to that, I understand, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, that US Special Forces will be enjoying the fact it's now nighttime because they are more well prepared. The equipment is just far greater than anything the Iranians have.
That's correct. So let's start with the reverse order. At night, we own the night, because our aircraft can see at the night, our operators can see in the night, those people looking for him can't. He's got certain devices that allow him to be seen at night. So all that plays to the advantage. He can move, communicate, and be at a location to affect that link up. So we own the night. Daylight's a different situation. And if he is recovered, he has means of letting the people recover him know that they would be rewarded, just like the Iranians are offering we have rewards too if you recover our people. And that reward may include getting them out of the country if it's that side of the table, which about 60 million Iranians would like to do at this point. So this is going to play out a lot of different dimensions. It's going to be real dynamic. But once that sun comes up, he's going to go into hiding as much as possible, wait for another cycle of darkness, because that's how he's been trained. He's been through a course. He's been certified to know those tactics, techniques, and procedures on how we recover him.
We've all seen the Hollywood movies. Those of us who haven't been in the military, Black Hawk Down, we see the pilots in the movies equipped with pistols, maybe some MP5s or something similar. Will this person be armed, do you think? How well equipped are they to defend themselves?
They are usually provided with a weapon in their flight kit. So yes, I would suspect he has a small arms with him. He also has more important communications and identifications on him and other means to let individuals know who he is and how to treat him. So all that's part of his kit, and he's been through the training on how to use it. So again, all the war we've been, the conflicts in, our pilots, our experiences from Vietnam, from Bosnia, we've learned those lessons. We've developed those techniques. We have systems and processes and organizations focused on just the recovery of pilots alone.
And if the worst happens and the Iranians do get there first and they beat US Special Forces, what can we expect? some suggesting that maybe they would behave terribly and the worst would happen, talking of torture and so on. But, I mean, is it the case maybe that the Iranians could be more shrewd than that and they wouldn't sort of blow their hands straight away?
Well, you have to assume the worst, no case about it, that this is a strategic accomplishment for them to capture U.S. servicemen on their ground. So, yes, but you got to consider where they're at, too. If he's captured by someone, they've got to get him to a major artery. And down there, I assume it would be Abadan. They then would try to move him up to Tehran. So this thing's not done until they've got him where they want to leverage him for their political and negotiating use. And we'll be tracking and attempting to recover him at all stages of this operation. So we've got a long way to go on this thing, but hopefully we'll identify him and find him shortly and recover him before daylight.
OK, Vice Admiral, last question. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. But in terms of today's action, we've had the downed F-15. The Warthog went down in Kuwait. 2 Black Hawks taking fire. Is it fair to say it's been one of the worst days thus far for the conflict in terms of America's position?
I don't know if it's the worst day. These are the impacts you have. At least no one's dead. And that's always your number one outcome. We've lost a pilot. We lost 2. We covered them. That's a good news story. So, yeah, this is war, but no one's lost their life on our side of the table on this day. So, no, we've had worse days. Any day we lose servicemen through those missile strikes, those are bad days. So hopefully this is not one of those days.
Yeah, well said. Former Navy SEAL and Deputy Commander of US Central Command, Vice Admiral Bob Howard. Thank you so much. Please come back on the show whenever you can. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Good to be with you.
/your say. Let us know your thoughts on this breaking story. We'll keep you updated as the night goes on. It's fair to say the race is on. It is a frantic race to find that downed weapons officer from the F-15. It's the Iranians against US Special Forces. And as you just heard there from the Vice Admiral, the Americans, for now, in nighttime, 3, 4 in the morning in Iran, they have the advantage. Far superior equipment, night vision capabilities and so on. So fingers crossed we can bring you a positive update before the night is out. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight. The murder of a teenager more than 50 years ago has finally been solved, and the murderer's name may be familiar to you. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Let me begin by congratulating the team at NASA and our brave astronauts on the successful launch of Artemis 2. It was quite something. It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon, go around it, and come back home from a distance that has never been done before. It's amazing. They are on the way, and God bless them. These are brave people.
2 days into the mission, and Artemis 2 is continuing to make history as they continue to make their way towards the moon. The 4 astronauts on board the Orion capsule have shared absolutely stunning pictures of Earth from their unique vantage point. This is one of them. The next key milestone, a lunar flyby, is expected in the coming days, but also making headlines is NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman, who has today said that NASA is, quote, in the second space race, but they didn't specify who they were competing against. I think the answer to that really is China. First of all, Tiffany, Mally, your reaction to these pictures released today by NASA, taken by the crew. Let's see if we can get that back on the screen. Just phenomenal. And again, it puts into perspective the beauty, the grace, the divinity of our amazing planet.
It really is. Creation is spectacular. And I think that this has really been such an incredible opportunity to remind the world, but also our nation, of American exceptionalism. You think about the original moon landing. I was supposed to be born, or I was born on the July 20th, but obviously not 1969, a little bit later. So I was born on the same day as we originally landed on the moon. And so this is really kind of, very personal to me. And, I really love that President Trump is putting money back into our space program. He started that with SpaceX back in the first administration, but now we have this beautiful new rebirth.
Mally's probably going to... I know what Mally's going to say now. He's taking it away.
I got my hit on the cuts, spinning cuts. I think it's a beautiful photo. I think I'm not as against space travel as Bev. I saw Bev tweeting out that she doesn't understand why people are interested in this, but it's a beautiful photo, and this is supposed to just be the pre-run before some larger missions to go back to the moon and then eventually, hopefully, Mars.
Christo Fufas, are you as enthused and touched, I guess is the word, by space and space travel as I am, or do you not really care?
I think I'm a little bit in between, actually. I love space travel. I think it's great. I don't think I'm at your stage yet, but I think you and Patrick Christie's are, a little bit obsessed in the nicest possible way. And I would say that perhaps, you're not particularly proportionate in your obsession, but all power to you. It's a very healthy obsession to have. But I am excited by this. I love the photo that they've sent. It is amazing that we send people to space. It is absolutely phenomenal. It's so odd to me that we were doing it so regularly and then we just stopped. And that was always really a little bit odd. I did watch the coverage of the launch. May I just say as well, on a separate note, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Ben, but I know that obviously you being there without your family has been quite tough for you, and seeing you and your little boy at the launch a few days ago, I just thought was one of the nicest things I've ever seen. It was so touching for you to share that moment, and he will remember that forever, and I'm so glad that you got to do that together.
Thank you, mate. That's very sweet of you. Yeah, we've texted a few times. It's been, as anyone would miss their kids if they're living away from them. So yeah, it's been tough from time to time. But yeah, it was a special moment. It was great to share that experience with him. And actually, I love space so much. His middle name, Jude's middle name, is Apollo because he was born in the year of the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landings. So I wanted to name him Apollo as a first name, and my wife was like, absolutely not. But I managed to get it into the middle name. So yeah, just indicative.
I think it's a good compromise.
Yeah, it's a good compromise. And then, yeah, there we go. It was great. It was fantastic. Elsewhere, let's turn our attentions back to Artemis itself. It's 2 or 3 days in now. There were a few issues, including apparently Microsoft Outlook wasn't working properly. So they were getting back to control, saying my emails aren't working. And also the crew on board, they finally have an update on that knackered toilet situation.
I heard that there was a little bit of an issue with the toilet. Which one of you was the plumber?
I'll take that one. I'm the space plumber. I'm proud to call myself the space plumber. I like to say that it is probably the most important piece of equipment on board. So we were all breathing a sigh of relief when it turned out to be just fine. It was just an issue, I think, of sitting for a long time and needing a little time to warm up, a priming issue. But we did originally think that there could have been potentially something fouling up the motor. And luckily, we are all systems go.
Well, the toilet is fixed. They can now go in peace, no problems. So yeah, that's a good bit of progress on Artemis too. But with me now is space engineer Mattia Barbarossa. Mattia, great to see you. And actually, you were, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the same Mattia, of course, who was with me down in Florida, Spaceview Park. You, my friend, were the best person I could ever position myself next to. You are so informed, so articulate in the way you explain this mission, what it means for humanity. Anyway, we enjoyed the launch together, and now we are, day 2 or 3, Mattia? Just give us an update on how you think it's all going.
Well, so far the capsule has already achieved major milestones. It lifted off a couple of days back from Cape Canaveral, and it got in a low Earth orbit before testing that everything was working properly. It boosted itself into a high eccentric orbit, well above Earth, where we got the amazing pictures they took. And now they just performed a few hours back a translunar injection maneuver, which pushed the capsule all the way toward the moon. And now by Monday, we are expected to see the capsule achieving its closest approach to the moon, a few thousand kilometers above the surface. And they will be among actually the first humans to ever see some area of the far side of the moon in history. So exciting times ahead.
So they are going further into space than anybody ever before. But of course, Apollo 13 had to go around the far side of the moon because something happened on board. There was an emergency and they slingshotted. But these guys, they are going, what, 2,000 miles further, Mattia, I think, than Apollo 13?
Yeah, pretty much. They will approach about 406,000 kilometers away from Earth. That will put them at the farthest humans have ever been from planet Earth, which is still basically the backyard in terms of cosmic scale. But they will be basically performing what is called a free return trajectory maneuver. So they will use the gravity from Moon itself to basically being slingshot back to Earth. And then they are expected to re-enter in the Pacific Ocean after 10 days from the launch, traveling, I believe, the fastest humans have ever traveled during atmospheric re-entering. And they will face scorching temperatures on the heat shield. So they will be actually the fastest humans to ever get back into Earth atmosphere.
Amazing. And just finally, Mattia, before I let you go, what do you make of these new pictures that were taken on board Artemis today of planet Earth? I think it was Commander Reed Wiseman who took the pictures we're talking about. You can see two auroras, the top right and the bottom left on the picture, as the Earth eclipses the sun. I love them. What was your take on these pictures?
Well, it's once again, it's very hard not to draw the comparison with the pictures that we have seen from the previous Apollo missions, especially the Earthrise and basically the last pictures that were gathered during Apollo 17 that showed the blue marble. This picture should really allow us to get a better sense of what are the achievements that our species can do. And once more, they should reinforce that these kind of missions are not just pure exploration for the exploration purpose, but they represent actually the pinnacles of our species. And they are truly, I think, the best representation of hope for a better future in an era where we are listening every day, basically, about new conflicts. This is what the best that humanity can actually do, among the best that humanity can actually do. And our future is going to see more and more of those kind of endeavors in spaceflight. And I think there is no better time to be alive for that.
Mattia, that is why I enjoyed spending the day with you down at Spaceview Park in Florida. Thank you so much. Love it. Mattia Barbarossa, space engineer, rocket scientist. He wore a hat saying Italian rocket scientist, and yeah, he is the man, Mattia Barbarossa. Thank you, Mattia. Appreciate it. gbnews.com/your say. Get in touch. Still ahead, though, for the time being on The Late Show Live.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, oh, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order.
Pam Bundy out. Kristi Noem out. Who will be the next casualty in President Trump's cabinet? And what does a shake-up at the top really mean? But first tonight, a teenage murder that haunted a generation is finally solved. And the name at the centre of it, well, you may or may not already know it. Back in just a tick on The Late Show Live.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update for the Met Office. Quite a fine start to the day, but later on Storm Dave takes hold, bringing us a spell of very wet and windy weather, multiple weather warnings in force. But this morning it's very much the calm before the storm, even some brighter spells across many eastern areas. But this soon being replaced by cloud as the storm starts to push through. Some very heavy spells of rain across Northern Ireland and later on into Scotland and northern parts of England. And those winds really picking up by the time we reach the afternoon, particularly in the west. But across much of England and Wales, it should remain largely dry, still quite windy, but feeling warm in any sheltered spots, highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius. Now, it's really into this evening that we see those strong winds really pick up. A chance we could see peak gusts of around 80 to 90 miles per hour in exposed areas of Scotland, and with some spells of snow that could even lead to some blizzard conditions. Some also very heavy spells of wind and rain across Northern Ireland and many western areas, still remaining largely dry across eastern England, but still very cloudy and still rather windy. So a chance of some severe gales through the course of the evening, still some very heavy heavy spells of rain, some heavy showers elsewhere across England and Wales, but the storm mostly moves into the North Sea through the early hours of Sunday, and winds will start to lighten off from the west, but there still could be some heavy showers at times and still very strong gusty winds around any eastern coasts. So temperatures widely in the mid to low single figures first thing on Easter Sunday, but it's certainly going to be feeling chilly out there in the strong winds. Eventually we do say goodbye to Storm Dave, any winds largely easing away. Still a fairly brisk westerly wind on Easter Sunday, and it's going to be a day of sunshine and showers, but still lots of dry weather around, maybe even some sunshine by the afternoon. Particularly good if you're heading out for any Easter egg hunts. Feeling a little bit chillier, highs reaching around 13 degrees Celsius.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome back. Right, more than 50 years on, one of America's most notorious cold cases has finally been solved. 17-year-old Laura Ann Amy was last seen leaving a Halloween party in Utah in 1974. There she is on your screen now if you're watching on telly. Her body was later discovered about a month after she disappeared near a mountain road. At the time, the sheriff's office said it appeared she'd been strangled and severely beaten. Serial killer Ted Bundy later confessed to the murder shortly before his execution, but detectives lacked the forensic evidence to prove it and nail down that it was him that did it, and they declined to accept his confession as well. But now, advances in DNA testing have confirmed Bundy indeed was responsible for the killing, bringing long-awaited answers to Amy's family. Authorities say the breakthrough could help solve other unsolved cases linked to Bundy. With me now is forensic DNA expert Tiffany Roy. Tiffany, good morning. Thank you for joining the Late Show Live. Ted Bundy, of course, there was that, well, I'll say infamous Netflix series about him. I think it was Netflix. So with this now pinned to Bundy, what is his total count now for murders? And also, does this open the door to far more cold cases now being cracked?
Yes, I don't know what the total amount of his, prolific crimes are, especially since he confessed to a lot of crimes that still have not been linked with forensic evidence. But his sample does exist in the CODIS database, and so it's just for this purpose, for cold cases that eventually the testing, the technology gets up to the point where we can test some of these minute samples and then run them against the database and compare them in that way to cold case killers like Ted Bundy.
So just explain, please, in layman's terms, because clearly I'm totally ignorant to DNA testing and forensics, but what has changed? What is the advancement that's happened with DNA testing that we can now solve cases like Amy's?
So we can test samples that have very small amounts of DNA on them, and we're able to get DNA profiles that are able to be compared, where, 50 years ago, we would never be able to get the kind of profile that we're able to get today from, let's say, epithelial cells or from just very small amounts of biological material that's been left behind. So now we can take samples from clothing, for example, and I know there were a lot of clothing items that were preserved for the 50 years since this crime occurred, and we can test clothing samples with small amounts of DNA and still get a comparable profile. So modern technology allows us to do that.
And again, excuse maybe the silly question, but this isn't this new advanced testing, this development, it isn't confined exclusively just to America. Could we see cases in Great Britain now being solved, cold cases?
Absolutely. The technology is consistently and regularly advancing. It advances at a breakneck pace. And so all the time, scientists are working on ways to get more from less. And that's something that's across the globe, globally. We're able to, the technology has reached a point where many cases that we could not apply this technology to when the crime occurred, as the technology advances, we will be able to perform testing and potentially use samples from those old cases to compare.
And just beyond the science and the sort of the forensics and the headlines, from a human aspect, it now means families like Laura's, who was 17 when she disappeared and was murdered by Bundy, they now, after decades, 5 decades, can have a sense of closure. I guess nothing will ever ever sort of calm the pain that I suspect never goes away, but at least they have some closure on that front.
Right, and it's not something where we have to trust something that Ted Bundy said on his deathbed. You know, we have now scientific evidence that corroborates independently that he was involved in this killing, and so I think that should give an added layer of certainty or just independent corroboration rather than just trusting the words of a deranged killer.
Yeah, just absolutely no doubt whatsoever. Tiffany, thank you so much. Fascinating speaking to you. Please come back on the show whenever we need you. It'd be great to have you back. That's forensic DNA expert Tiffany Roy. Thanks, Tiffany. Right with me now is criminologist Dr. Debbie Goodman. Dr. Goodman, thank you for joining the Late Show Live. Can we talk about, please, Ted Bundy? We've all, well, probably a lot of us have seen the documentaries on Ted Bundy. I think he was only convicted of 3 murders, but he's confessed to 30. I think maybe this goes up to 4 now with Laura's murder. What was his problem, Ted Bundy? What was the psychology behind him?
Certainly. Well, thank you, Ben. And when we talk about serial killers, and especially directly Ted Bundy, we look at the mindset, Ben, and he is indeed a psychopath, as are many others in this category, to include names your viewers would recall: Dahmer, Rader, Gacy, Ridgway. And what that really speaks to is a level of narcissism, grandiosity, manipulation. You see, I never want individuals who are analyzing this to think that these individuals are insane, because they're not. Legally, to be insane, it would mean the individual does not know what he is doing, does not know what he is doing is wrong. And so the names that I have mentioned, clearly they are in a category of what I refer to as a criminologist as a hedonistic killer. And so hedonism speaks, Ben, to pleasure. These individuals are deriving pleasure in terms of planning their crime, carrying it out, and they also enjoy the aftermath when people are talking about them, when for a period of time they may have also seemingly gotten away with it.
Can I ask you, please, I know you're a criminologist and not a theologist, but just from your own personal opinion, are people born evil, or do they turn evil because of circumstance?
Right, it's a great question, and I'm a professor and we talk about this at the university. I believe, Ben, that these are choices individuals make, the same way that those of us and your viewers who are law-abiding citizens, we understand compliance, we understand the importance of ethics, integrity, character. These individuals at some time and place in their lives and their lifestyles, they have made a very conscientious decision to participate really in what I refer to as terror. They are terrorizing not only the victims and their families, but they're terrorizing cities and communities and states. So I do not believe that an individual such as a Ted Bundy and the other individuals in this classification are born this way. I think they very carefully and methodically decide to be this way. There's a great deal of planning that goes into their crimes, and again, beginning, middle to the end, it's premeditated, it's planned, it's with malice, and it's willful.
Oh, goodness me. Debbie, thank you so much. Appreciate you being on. Debbie Goodman, criminologist. Yeah, I've always thought about the concept of good versus evil. Tiffany, I never used to believe in evil per se. I used to think people were just maybe had some childhood trauma, they were brought up differently, and then they went a certain way. And then I saw some really pivotal events in the United Kingdom, particularly Southport. You may not be familiar, the 3 babies who were murdered by that scumbag at a Taylor Swift dance class. And I changed my mind. I thought, if you believe in God and the divinity of God energy, however you want to interpret that, you know, man sitting in the sky at the pearly gates, however, if you believe in that divinity and that graciousness, then there has to be a polar opposite, and it has to be evil.
There has to be. So I believe as a Christian that we're all born inherently sinful. And the reality is you cannot have good without evil. It's a binary. And I think the biggest lie that we have ever been taught or told pervasively in society is that man is inherently good and that we're all just doing our best and that evil does not exist. Because the denial of the existence of evil, what that's done is that has allowed it to go unchecked. It's allowed people to make decision after decision saying like, oh, it was just a bad choice, when there is real evil. You look at Ted Bundy's face, you look at his eyes, and that is evil incarnate. That is a man that killed at least 30 women in at least 7 different states with zero repentance, with joy and glee. And we see it now. We see it in every single day, circumstances and crime that happens in this world. Children that are abused, children that are raped, women that are killed. I mean, it doesn't, puppies. Like, people that do these kinds of crimes, they do invest and give themselves over, I think, to evil desires.
Mally, bit of a light-hearted conversation for two.
I did go to divinity school, you guys.
Yes.
It's not my fault.
I certainly think there's evil in this world, and you can't have people doing what like Ted Bundy did and not think that there are truly some evil folks out there. I think most people are good, and there are a lot of shades of gray, but there are some truly evil folks. Anyone who can just kill with abandon, or anyone who abuses animals or children, there's something seriously wrong with them. The one optimistic thing I'd like to say, though, is that there's a lot of evidence that there's a lot less serial killers nowadays because, A, there's so many videos recording kind of everywhere we go. It's harder to get away with serial murder. And then second, because of the revolution with DNA, it's just
We've
harder
scared
as
them.
well.
We've scared the serial killers back into the proverbial serial killer closet.
Or they can only get one person, and then we
Satan be gone. Tiffany, somebody on your say, gbnews.com/your say, Ron Dennis. Good morning, Ron. Thank you for tuning in. You said God energy. What is that? Explain, please, Ben. I guess my interpretation is the Holy Spirit. Just God energy, but what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I believe in the Bible. I believe in the God of the Bible. I believe that Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior, and that He died on Good Friday thousands of years ago for our sins. And I think that we live in a world that we so often forget the transcendent and the spiritual. We often just focus, especially now with this, fitness optimization and beauty and peptides and what's my Strava, what is my Garmin, what does my Oura Ring say? We forget that there is a spiritual side to the world, whether that's transcendence, whether that's looking at, good and evil. I believe in angels and demons personally, not to get too theological. But I think you can go back to what C.S. Lewis said in his writings. I think there's no more pertinent time in history to read men like C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, especially that hideous strength, and you see how he was even ahead of his time in understanding what God and Satan were battling over, even with AI. So I think that's God energy. I believe in God.
And MW on your say has said the greatest trick Satan ever did was to convince people he doesn't exist. Mally, are you into all this stuff, or do you think we're just a bunch of nuts?
I mean, I'm Christian. My granddad was a preacher, Southern Baptist preacher for 40 years, and my grandparents on my mom's side grew up in Nigeria, and they were missionaries. So I am certainly religious, and I think that also helps inform my beliefs that there is evil in the world, because I think there's truly good in the world, and for there to be truly good, there has to unfortunately be evil.
Yeah, well said. Right, on your say, one more. Tammy, hello Tammy, thanks for tuning in. You said Ted Bundy, was a source that we could have used to learn more about the depravity of psychopaths, but justice was chosen over science. He was willing to be a test subject. That's interesting. So Bundy was executed.
In 1989, he was executed, and like you said, very few of the crimes were not actually proven. But I think this case is so encouraging because it says that there is no timeline on the pursuit of truth, and there is no end to the pursuit of justice or comfort for these families that have faced so much grief and tragedy for the last, however many decades, 50 years.
Yeah, and as someone who's watched a fair share of true crime documentaries, one of the reasons they didn't want to accept his confession is that you have serial killers, they want the notoriety, so sometimes they claim they've killed someone that they actually didn't.
It's almost like they wanted a Netflix special made about the Mally.
that I watch, unfortunately.
Okay, great conversation. Thank you for that, guys, and also viewers contributing on your say as well. Still ahead on the Late Show Live tonight, though. Can't make it up. This is the front page of The Sun. Sir Sadiq Khan's security guards. This is unbelievable. Leave a bag of guns, including pistols and MP5s, on a London street, outside his home. And just to lighten things up a bit, the Express has marmalade madness. Apparently, Keir Starmer has been accused of returning power to Brussels after it emerged marmalade may be renamed to citrus marmalade after EU rules said we can't call it marmalade. I mean, get stuffed. I love marmalade. Back in a sec. Well, let's look at that front page of the Sun story. Great exclusive from the Sun, my old colleagues. Let's take a look at it. Christo's back in Blighty as well. Christo, Sadiq Khan's Met police officers, his sort of security team, according to the Sun, left a bag of guns, including pistols, ammunition, and an MP5, which is a semi-automatic rifle, semi-automatic weapon, on the street outside his home. And it was found by a man and a woman just walking past. The woman started kicking the bag. Just tell us about this story.
Yeah, I mean, the headline says it all. You can't make it up. It was basically a bag full of really, really powerful guns, including an MP5 semi-automatic Heckler, a Cock carbine, a Glock pistol, a taser, and other ammunition that was with it, was all found in this holdall by a pregnant woman and her partner who happened to be walking past the front of Sadiq Khan's home, which is in Tooting in South London. Apparently 5 officers have now been taken off frontline duties since this story was filed as a result of this. But get this, right? It was in Tooting, just a couple of miles away from Clapham, on the same night as the disruption that we saw those feral youths overrunning Clapham. Could you imagine if any of them had found this bag full of guns? Tooting, there are parts of Tooting, which you will remember, which aren't great at the best of times, but actually, on a night where there are feral youths running riot throughout South London, to have a bag of guns left out on the side of the road is just beyond belief.
Yeah, crazy story. And also, just from a journalistic point of view, great story from the Sun. Tiffany, I guess this is probably not too common in America, uncommon rather, finding guns and weapons.
Well, we buy them here. We can carry them around. We're not just leaving bags of them outside the mayor's house. Also, what I will say is that Sadiq Khan is the worst mayor London's ever known. And for a man with rising crime rates, rising homicide rates, who's more interested in taxing his own citizens out of their house and home than he is about actually locking down crime, this is just hilarious and is a perfect proof of his incompetent pudding. And I think
well, it's not really his fault if his coppers leave the bag.
He's the one in charge, not only that, but why are, I mean, really, why are his coppers, why are his police force so incompetent as to leave a bag of guns on the sidewalk? That doesn't happen.
And can we just say, go on, Mally, Christo.
Well, I was just going to say, Tiffany, you and I need to go for coffee because you are singing from my hymn sheet. I think that he is, well, I call him the repellent runt because he is utterly repellent. And I can't wait to hear him pontificate about how gun crime is going down in London whilst his own protection officers leave a bag of weapons lying around. This is a man that gaslights Londoners into telling them that crime is falling. It's never been safer to live in London, when in actual fact, violent crime against the person is up, theft off the person is up, the crime per person, as in per 1,000 people in London, is up, yet he will tell you morning, noon and night, he will gaslight you into telling you that everything is fine whilst London falls around him.
Well, Tiffany said homicides are up, according to figures, and I'm sorry to be the cavalry here for Sadiq Khan, but it is the case. The homicides are down 11%.
That's new.
2025 compared to 2024. And he's also, with regards to Clapham, he warned against any utterly unacceptable, in his words, scenes of disorder in Clapham, saying the culprits who assault and intimidate shop workers will feel the full force of the law. But I think it is the case that knife offences are definitely up.
At least it wasn't a bag of knives. You know, that really would have gotten us all going.
But Tiffany, you are not just to inform viewers just on this conversation, you're not just some American here pontificating from across the pond. You lived in Great Britain for how long and where?
Yeah, so I lived in South Kensington. I used to intern at the British Museum, and I went to the University of St Andrews in Scotland. I also was a C.S. Lewis scholar in the summers at Oxford and Cambridge. So England is near and dear to my heart. I've been going there every summer since I was 8 years old. And I very much feel like there's an old British gentleman living inside of my body at any given time. You should see what my house looks like.
Would you like me to perform an exorcism?
Maybe. I don't know what's going to come out. A lot of Ralph Lauren, but you know. So I think that my view of London has been evolving since I was 8 years old, so 30 years. I have seen it come through so many transitions, and I have never been sadder to go back to my favorite city in the world than I was this last summer, and to see all of the trash, to really see a lack of British culture, and to see, I mean, even the bridges. Why are we not fixing the bridges? Why are we not fixing the bike paths? Why are there signs now that says, oh, your phone's gonna be stolen, so hold on tight, instead of cracking down on the criminals? He has allowed the best city on earth to devolve into chaos, crime, and I miss the London that I grew up in and that I love.
Well, for some reason, lots of people disagree with you because they keep voting him in. Somehow he keeps winning elections and they think he's doing a great job. So.
That's why we have the migrant vote problem, because we want to get as many people in so they can keep voting Labour and people like Sadiq Khan in.
Yeah, Mally, what's your take?
I lived in the UK, went to Cambridge, and I didn't get that little British hype up you did for Tiffany.
Oh, go on then.
What is this?
Go on, your turn. You came on the log. Did you enjoy yourself in the UK?
I did love it in the UK.
London?
Loved my Cambridge.
Yeah, but did you like London?
Yeah, I liked London. I know we are, really criticizing London at the moment, and let's be clear, leaving a bag of guns unattended is not a smart play. But in London's defense, London has a lower crime rate than 96 of 100 U.S. cities. So of the 100 largest U.S. cities, 96 are safer.
Take that, Tiffany.
I mean, are we going to go by population? Because I'm pretty sure we have a lot more people than the UK, Mally.
It's per capita.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm sorry. I will
Go.
just quickly say, yes, I absolutely get it that homicides, murders, as we call them here in the UK, are down under Sadiq Khan in the last couple of years. But I'd like to think we have a higher threshold of thinking that a city is safe, that you're not going to get brutally murdered when you leave your house.
Also rapes. We forget to count the rape statistics, which are, the highest they've ever been and keep on climbing. I mean, the United Kingdom's having a massive rape problem right now, so it might not be homicide, but I'm pretty sure sexually assaulting women and destroying their lives and giving them PTSD is just as bad.
Yeah, and they just, rapes infamously in the UK don't get solved. They are one of the lowest solved crimes going in the UK. A Met Police spokesperson has said, in reference to this Sun front page, at around 9:40 p.m, a member of the public called police after finding a bag containing Met-issued firearms and a taser on a street in South London. Within 7 minutes of the call, officers arrived at the scene and safely recovered the items. We're urgently reviewing the circumstances of this incident and recognise the concern it may cause. At this stage, it's believed the bag was misplaced by on-duty officers a short time before a member of the public located it. An internal review was immediately launched into the circumstances. 5 officers have been removed from frontline duties while these inquiries remain ongoing. And I'm just as well, they've responded within 7 minutes. Goodness me. Can you imagine if the 999 call handler said, we'll get back to you tomorrow? Can we look at the front page very quickly of the Express? Christo, Sir Keir Starmer was accused of returning power to Brussels after it emerged that marmalade may be renamed to meet EU standards. So under Labour's completely bonkers, quote-unquote, food deal, the British breakfast favourite might have to be called citrus marmalade. Oh, you got some marmalade?
I don't know if you saw from the last programme, but I brought in, it's not marmalade, it's unspecified citrus spread. I've rebranded it for you to make the EU happy. Unspecified citrus spread. Well done, the EU. We need more of this from them to keep us in line. Otherwise, we'll all get very confused as to what marmalade is. You know I'm a massive Remainer, Ben, and I really think we need these regulations to keep us in line.
Oh, goodness me. I love marmalade. Loads of butter. Do you guys know what marmalade is?
Oh, Paddington is my spirit animal, okay? It's a toss-up between that and Miss Piggy, so of course I know marmalade. Of course I know a good marmalade sandwich. Let's not forget that epic commercial with the Queen with a marmalade sandwich in her purse. I mean...
Mally, do you know what marmalade is?
I do, but I'm not the biggest fan. I don't hate it, but... don't love it as much.
You guys in America, by the way, we discussed this last night, you are getting Marmite in the United States, and goodness me, you're in for a treat.
Marmite's gross.
It's not, it's great. I love
it. Delicious.
Right, more coming up in the next hour. Yes, Tiffany, including this.
In the end, evil and wickedness will not prevail.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update for the Met Office. Quite a fine start to the day, but later on Storm Dave takes hold, bringing us a spell of very wet and windy weather, multiple weather warnings in force. But this morning it's very much the calm before the storm, even some brighter spells across many eastern areas. But this soon being replaced by cloud as the storm starts to push through. Some very heavy spells of rain across Northern Ireland and later on into Scotland and northern parts of England. And those winds really picking up by the time we reach the afternoon, particularly in the west. But across much of England and Wales, it should remain largely dry, still quite windy, but feeling warm in any sheltered spots, highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius. Now, it's really into this evening that we see those strong winds really pick up. A chance we could see peak gusts of around 80 to 90 miles per hour in exposed areas of Scotland, and with some spells of snow that could even lead to some blizzard conditions. Some also very heavy spells of wind and rain across Northern Ireland and many western areas, still remaining largely dry across eastern England, but still very cloudy and still rather windy. So a chance of some severe gales through the course of the evening, still some very heavy spells of rain, some heavy showers elsewhere across England and Wales, but the storm mostly moves into the North Sea through the early hours of Sunday, and winds will start to lighten off from the west, but there still could be some heavy showers at times and still very strong gusty winds around any eastern coasts. So temperatures widely in the mid to low single figures first thing on Easter Sunday, but it's certainly going to be feeling chilly out there in the strong winds. Eventually we do say goodbye to Storm Dave, any winds largely easing away. Still a fairly brisk westerly wind on Easter Sunday, and it's going to be a day of sunshine and showers, but still lots of dry weather around, maybe even some sunshine by the afternoon. Particularly good if you're heading out for any Easter egg hunts. Feeling a little bit chillier, highs reaching around 13 degrees Celsius.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right.
GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You have the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Into the 747's wing tax.
Hello, good morning. I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live on GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you. No apologies, no hesitation, epic fury.
News tonight, an American pilot has been rescued after Iran shot down a US fighter jet, with the frantic race now on and continuing into the night, the early hours, to find a second serviceman who is yet to be accounted for. 2 rescue aircraft are also separately believed to have faced fire from the Iranian regime, with one crashing in Kuwait. It's been a hell of a day in Iran. And now GB News understands the National Security Team is gathered in the White House with President Trump, who continues to receive updates on the escalating situation. Elsewhere tonight,
In the end, evil and wickedness will not prevail.
evil will not prevail. President Trump releases his Easter message, reflecting on the sacrifices made by Jesus Christ and reaffirming a message of hope. Amen. I'm Ben Leo, and this is The Late Show Live. Hello, good morning. Welcome along to The Late Show Live. Thank you for your company. Joining me in Washington this evening is my panel, the political strategist and podcast host Tiffany Marie Brannan, and the Democrat strategist Mally Smith. And in London, the journalist and broadcaster Christo Foufas. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Let's get an update on that breaking news this evening, shall we? Iran has shot down an F-15E Strike Eagle jet belonging to the US military. One crew member has been rescued, but crucially, a search is now underway for the second, a weapons engineer who was on board. It's also understood that an aircraft mobilised to support the search and rescue mission was struck by Iranian fire, causing the pilot of that aircraft, it was a Warthog, and the craft to crash in Kuwait. The pilot was rescued in that case. The regime has also targeted 2 Black Hawk helicopters involved in the search and rescue. Just unbelievable footage, unverified, of Iranian police shooting the Black Hawks with pistols. Officials now are stating that the crew suffered minor injuries in the Black Hawks, but they are now safe and sound. NBC News is tonight reporting that the F-15 that was downed was shot down over Iran, is believed to have been based out of the UK. In just 24 hours, Iran has caused 2 military aircraft to crash and hit 2 Black Hawk helicopters. There's now a race to find that second weapons engineer, and it all came less than 24 hours after President Trump said this.
And the country has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat. They were the bully of the Middle East, but they're the bully no longer.
Well, President Trump's national security team has been at the White House all day, with the president himself being kept informed about the unfolding situation. Iran, and take this with a pinch of salt, has reportedly rejected an American proposal for a 48-hour ceasefire. That's according to the semi-official Fars news agency, which is pretty much connected with the state. Earlier today, Iranians were offered a reward of $60,000 if they handed over any American pilot.
Please pay attention. Dear viewers, please pay attention. Dear and honourable people, if you capture the enemy pilot or pilots and hand them over alive to the law enforcement and military forces, you will receive a valuable reward.
Well, back home in Britain, former Prime Minister Boris Johnson has lashed out at Prime Minister Keir Starmer, writing in the Daily Mail that Britain, quote, can't pretend this isn't our war, adding that it's a delusion to think we can stick our heads in the sand, as Starmer has tried to do, and it's an absolute delusion to think there is some European-only substitute for NATO. We should remember, says Boris, the sheer scale of the American commitment to us and to our security. With me now is research professor, US Army War College Professor Azeem Ibrahim. Azeem, good morning. Thanks for joining the Late Show Live. What's the latest, please, on this frantic search for the second military personnel who was downed in the F-15? The pilot has been rescued, but we still don't know where this second military personnel is, do we?
Yeah, Ben, so at the moment there's no further details. Nothing has actually been confirmed. There's obviously, as you mentioned, there's rumours that there's been 4 aircraft that have been shot down, some saying that there are even more, but nothing's been officially confirmed. It's obviously a deeply concerning situation for a war that wasn't very popular in the first place, and now the questions are going to be asked in terms of how Iran has managed to do all of this within 24 hours. Did they have a specific infrared technology which has also been rumoured to shoot down some of these aircraft, or is it down to the recent shipment of new munitions they may have received from Russia just in the last couple of days? So all of those questions are going to be asked now.
That's interesting, the point you make about munitions from Russia. Just tell us about that, please. What happened and when?
So they've been receiving regular shipments from Russia and potentially even material from China. So was that part of the new anti-aircraft systems that they may have received delivery of? None of this is confirmed, of course, and the US is unlikely to confirm it either. But it seems very surprising that within 24 hours they managed to shoot down potentially 4 aircraft in such a short space of time, particularly after such a prolonged kind of effort so far in terms of the number of sorties that the US has actually employed. You know, over 13,000. And within 24 hours, they managed to hit so many aircraft. So something definitely untoward is actually happening here.
Well, OK, so 4 aircraft have been shot at. The downed F-15, the Warthog, the A-10 Thunderbolt, which is a ground attack aircraft. It's a jet that crashed in Kuwait. The pilot is fine. And the 2 Black Hawks, which were shot at by small arms fire, they're fine, but they weren't downed, those 2 choppers. So it's 2 downed aircraft. What do we know about the A-10 Thunderbolt, the Warthog jet, which we understand was near the Strait of Hormuz, maybe getting involved in this rescue mission when it was shot down?
The A-10 is usually an anti-tank type aircraft. It doesn't actually go very fast. It does not have any kind of stealthy, stealthy ability whatsoever. So they're not necessarily that difficult to shoot down. So it could be a pure coincidence at the same time, but it still seems extremely suspicious. Now, obviously, President Trump has now cancelled all the press briefings, and he's now in the emergency national security briefing. Now, the main challenge to the US is going to be if this pilot is captured and paraded on TV. You know, this was a war that they didn't really sell to the American public, so it's going to be even a more difficult situation. We have to remember, Ben, the last time Iran held American hostages was in 1979, and that brought down the Carter administration. Not that this is the same thing, but this will certainly be in the back of the mind of many American policymakers.
So do you think, God forbid, instead of torturing or killing this weapons engineer who was on the downed F-15, if the Iranians find them first before US Special Forces, you think maybe they would keep them alive and use them as propaganda, parade them on television?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I don't think there's any urgency in torturing or mistreating them. I think what the Iranians would show is that they're actually treating them very well. But they'll parade them on TV and forcibly make them give statements how this war was a huge error, that they were forced into it, they never supported it, they love the Iranian people, etc. So all of those statements will come out. Everybody will know it's propaganda, but it'll still be hugely humiliating. And the American public will then start asking questions in terms of why we're actually there and why are their servicemen actually being held in such conditions.
Wow, OK, well, fingers crossed for that man or woman, the weapons engineer, whoever they are. As I said, the race is on. It's about 4 or 5 in the morning in Iran, and we've been hearing, just finally, Azeem, that US Special Forces would have the upper hand because it's night time. Just explain, please, why America, US Special Forces, have the advantage in night operations compared to, say, the Iranians. What have they got that the Iranians don't?
They obviously have extreme capability, and tracking a downed pilot at night. The pilots are actually trained only to move at night. If they're ever behind enemy lines, you don't actually move during the day. You have to stay absolutely still. Try to find some sort of cover from shelter and stay absolutely still. Only at night are they supposed to move, and the US Special Forces with the night visions and infrared technology will hopefully track where that pilot is. Now the challenge is that both the pilots, with the ejector seats, both ejected in the same location. They found one, but they didn't find the other. So that could also mean that there's a problem potentially with the canopy, or the pilot didn't survive the jump, didn't survive the ejection, or they've already been detained. So none of those scenarios are actually any good.
Yeah, indeed. Just a picture on your screen now, just for reference. This is the A-10 Thunderbolt II, or the Warthog as it's known. This is the one that was downed in Kuwait after receiving Iranian fire. The pilot of that jet is safe and sound tonight, thankfully. Azim, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Azim Ibrahim, Research Professor at the US Army War College. Mali, I guess the longer this search goes on, the bigger the headache for the administration and trying to convince the American people who, I guess the Republicans back the war, according to polls, but everybody else they're not keen on it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think this exacerbates a problem the Trump administration already had, which is we're in a bit of a stalemate where the U.S. had supremacy in the air, and we were able to bomb our targets pretty much with impunity, for the exception of today, while the Iranians were having success at disrupting the global economy and making oil prices rise. The issue Trump had is that stalemate could only potentially be broken with boots on the ground, which, Ben, I've criticized that idea just because I'm very skeptical of regime change, and I just don't think it would be something we'd be able to do successfully given our previous history. And I think the problem you have here is the capturing of the U.S. soldier, can increase the length of this war. And I think if you're the Trump administration, every week the war goes on, we're getting closer to $200 a barrel oil, which is the biggest choke point that the Iranians have on us. And then the second thing is, if they have this U.S. soldier captured, which, knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen, they're either going to have to give up some favorable terms in a deal, or we're going to, again, have to do a military action to receive them, which has its own risks. So this is not a good day for America, but also for the Trump administration trying to, scout out an end game to this war. This complicates it.
Tiffany, there have been no statements from US Central Command, nothing from the Pentagon, nothing from Pete Hegseth. The White House press pool, which, how can I explain this, is the group of journalists who follow the president around all day. They'll be there to report on what he's up to and take questions with him if and when that happens. They've called a lid on the pool tonight, which means the president's not coming out. He's battened down the hatches with his national security team. What does that suggest?
I think we need to let the man cook. I think that's what it suggests. I think that they're keeping this operation very tight. I think that we have to remember we never have all the information. Not only that, but I don't think it's necessarily a public right for us to have every fact when there are ongoing military operations where actual people's lives are on the line. Now, to that point, I think that he's working behind the scenes and the administration is working behind the scenes. I also think on a communications front that no news is good news, that the best way to kill any rumor or PR or when you're dealing with the bad press is not necessarily even to spin it, but to remain silent. It's what, I used to live in Hollywood. The #1 rule of any celebrity scandal is do not talk to the press. And I think that right now we need to give him and his administration time. They always end up being 10 steps ahead of us. And we have to remember they're usually playing chess, not checkers. I mean, Mally might disagree with me, but I really do think that there is a long-term strategy here. I think it's really tragic that this happened, especially I think a lot of us have PTSD considering the hostage situation with October 7th. I think that is fresh in our mind. And so this is an opportunity that we really need to seize on. We need to recover this specialist, and we need to wrap up this war as quickly as possible and get those oil prices back down.
Brent crude at $110 a barrel today. Tiffany's got a great point there. President Trump says a lot to the press when he's asked, what are you going to do about this? And how are you going to attack this? And he says, I'm not telling you. Why would we tell the world our military plans for Iran?
I disagree with some of the things Tiffany said, but I will agree with her on that.
Hey, thanks.
I will agree with her on that, and that there's no use to give an update right now because the update, other than we're working on it, is the only thing we can say. And I think whether we rescue him or the Iranians get him, we will know pretty instantly, because either the U.S. is, once they have him successfully out, they're going to be wanting to let the American people know, and then once the Iranians have him, it's going to be a coup for them. So we'll know sooner or later, but hopefully for the family of this soldier, we get clarity soon, and the clarity is that we have him.
Christo Foufas is down the line in London. Christo, being very, very cynical, would Keir Starmer tonight and the Labour government maybe be thinking, well, this is precisely why we didn't want to get involved in this war, because it's British, it would have been British lives on the line. It could have been a British pilot that we were searching for tonight in a race against the Iranians.
I'm not sure that they would. I mean, yes, I will always be cynical about how moronic and stupid our government is here in the United Kingdom, the one that we're unfortunately saddled with. But I don't think their involvement would have ever resulted in them needing to put our troops in that kind of position. And that's why I think Keir Starmer was so stupid, because, as I've said before, I really think that he could have been really smart in the way in which he played this. And as Boris Johnson's article alludes to, where I think actually it's the most sense Boris Johnson has talked to in years, I think actually, Thatcher was at the table, Tony Blair was at the table. Love or loathe the reasons behind the Iraq war that Blair had, at least he was involved in what the US was doing. Keir Starmer has basically just completely removed himself from any of it. He's alienated our closest ally, an ally, of course, that is absolutely integral in NATO, and we could have just said, look, use our bases. He ended up saying that we should use some of the bases, that they could use some of those bases anyway, but ended up using up all of the goodwill from the United States in the meantime. So I'm not sure that our involvement would have ever meant us being as involved in this. But can I just say also very quickly, it's amazing. I know that there is this one air crew that is still missing, and fingers crossed this person is found, but it's amazing that two air crew were found so quickly out of the three that ended up being shot down.
Yeah.
That is a phenomenal achievement that happened so quickly.
Yeah, thank goodness. And we spoke to the Vice Admiral in the past couple of hours, who said, I said to him, I put it to him, is this one of the worst days so far in terms of America's involvement in this conflict? And he said, well, no, let's take a rain check. We've had 13 Americans die between the start of the war on February 28th up until now, many more injured. As we know so far, the two pilots have been rescued, and we are still looking for the weapons engineer from the F-15. So no, but by no metric is this the worst day yet so far for the Americans. So yeah, a nice bit of perspective there from him, and indeed you, Christo. Just finally on Boris Johnson, he loves to have a dig at Keir Starmer. He's written this column tonight saying that he's involved whether he likes it or not. What do you think the Labour response to the whole conflict from a wider perspective will be from here on? Energy prices, the energy crisis and so on?
Well, I think the issue that we've got at the moment with Labour is that they are, and that's why it is just so awful the way that they were this week with some of the businesses here in the United Kingdom, accusing them of profiteering. The only people that are profiteering from this war is our government. There was a report this week in the newspaper that said that they are making 20 million a day in extra fuel duty because of the increase in fuel prices. It is in their hands to help us. They could get rid of the green levies. They could get rid of VAT on energy bills today. They could remove I think it's 52, maybe even 55% of the money of the petrol that we put in our cars goes straight to them in VAT and fuel duty. They could immediately take action to help people, but they are a government that like to get their sticky little fingers on the money that should be in yours and my pocket, so of course they're not going to.
Tiffany?
Yeah, I actually saw the same chart that Chris was talking about, and on top of the 53%, there's also 12% VAT. So let's not forget to tax the people on top of the tax.
Well, Ed Miliband in the Times, it's reported in the Times last night that Miliband was reportedly going to green light extraction in the North Sea at the Jackdaw gas field, which is 250 miles off the coast of Aberdeen. So it seems, Christo, and Mally as well, Mally, let's get your thoughts on this, that maybe they are going to be reacting to it, although I think Miliband has since denied that Times article. But I mean, they must have got the story from somewhere, Mally.
Yeah, I have no idea where they got that story, but I would say this. I know we're concerned about taxes raising the cost of fuel in the UK. Those are things that can be looked at to help consumers. But what's really raising the cost of oil and gas in the UK is President Trump's war of choice with Iran. It's up 40% in the US. We have gas going up to $4. It's on the march to $5. Diesel's already at $5. And it's not because of some green energy scheme that you guys would like to talk about. It's because of a war of choice where we have no clear exit and strategy to get out of.
Well, your petrol gas prices are still far cheaper than the UK's, so net zero definitely, Tiffany, does have an impact on our energy prices.
And also what I'll say is that the UK gas prices and the overtaxation of the people of the United Kingdom, that has been occurring far and longer before any war with Iran. This is a direct result of bad anti-citizen, policies and taxation that, meanwhile, let's talk to the British citizens that can't afford houses, that are being pushed out of their own neighborhoods where they grew up, where their grandparents lived, in favor of illegal immigrant housing, in favor of all these migrants getting housing. So I think that, now we look at cities like Oxford, where there are these minute cities, 15-minute cities, where now you're getting fined and permitted and ticketed. The United Kingdom wants to tax its own citizens and overregulate its own citizens to death.
Christo, last word to you.
Oh my word, Tiffany. I mean, I think that you're leading me to question life decisions I've made tonight, because I think I'm falling in love a little bit. You're absolutely correct. These low traffic neighbourhoods, 15-minute cities nonsense where we now have people in government that used to sit, years ago, government used to be about ways in which people could keep hold of their own money and ways in which people's lives could be made easier. We now have the precise opposite. We have a government that tries to restrict its citizens moving around, restrict its citizens getting housing, and take as much of their money as possible. It's the precise opposite of what government should be.
Amen.
Yeah, sounds like communism. Christo, thank you. Appreciate it. Stay there. Go and get yourself a G&T or something. Coffee.
I need
cup of
one.
tea. Marmalade. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live. Still ahead on The Late Show Live.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, oh, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order.
Pam Bundy out, Kristi Noem out. Who will be the next casualty in President Trump's cabinet, and what does a shake-up at the top really mean? Is it now an administration, as some on the left are saying, in chaos, or is this par for the course for a government that's 14, 15 months in? Back in a sec. Right, as we just said, President Trump's cabinet shake-up is accelerating, with Attorney General Pam Bondi fired yesterday. She's gone after mounting pressure over her handling of the Epstein files. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was also ousted early last month amid concerns over her performance and criticism of a costly promotional campaign. And now the spotlight turns to who is next? Maybe Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, the former Democrat. She's apparently in the crosshairs over her softer stance on Iran, putting her out of step with the president. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is also reportedly facing scrutiny with questions over his performance. And tonight, Polymarket, the betting website, is predicting there is a 60% chance FBI Director Kash Patel, there he is, will be out by June the 30th. So why does President Trump seem to be shaking up his top team, and is it a distress call in disguise? Tiffany?
I think it could be the Labor Secretary, right? That Lori Chavez.
Lutnick.
Lori Chavez.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I love Howard Lutnick. I love his wife Allison. I know them personally. I know Kristi Noem. I know Pam Bondi.
All right, name dropper.
Kristi Noem, I think we can all say pretty wildly that she got fired because of her husband's cross-dressing transgender OnlyFans messages that got leaked.
Yeah, so just very briefly explain that, because nobody, I don't think, in Britain will know what happened there.
So essentially what happened was Kristi Noem's husband, there was a scandal where she was at a Senate hearing and there was rumors that she was perjuring herself for the rumored affair with Corey Lewandowski. and then who's sitting, and her husband sitting behind her, and then it got even worse when the pictures of her husband, who, you know, apparently there's already some marital issues, got leaked that he'd been sending inappropriate pictures of himself wearing large prosthetic breasts to young women on OnlyFans. I can't believe this stuff has to come out of my mouth when I'm talking about
comically
politics.
large.
Comically large.
So
watermelon large.
So you
also pointing in different directions.
Yes, the nipples didn't even match. It was really confusing.
All right. So you don't think Kristi Noem was ousted because of the stuff with ICE and DHS?
I think it was the final straw. I think that the administration, yes, should she have made herself the center focal point of it? No, but have they generally been putting out really good content that really highlights what it is to be an American that is the victim of a failed immigration policies under the Biden administration? Yes, I do think so. I love Pam Bondi. I think that, again, the Epstein files, this is something that Trump wants to go away. Everyone's sick of talking about it. I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of talking about it. And I think it's just the thorn in the side of this administration. And I think, you know, while it's, again, I know Cash, I know his girlfriend very well. I love her, and it's sad if this is push come to shove and he gets pushed out. But my hope is for the labor secretary.
Well, so jumping off that point, I used to work at the Department of Labor for the Biden administration. The labor secretary absolutely should be fired.
She drinks all the time.
Well, listen to this. So these are some of the allegations that are serious allegations. There's like internal investigations going on with the Department of Labor about this. The allegations are that A, she has an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. No word if Corey Lewandowski is involved in that. There's also a report she has been accused of using government resources for personal travel, so going to Las Vegas on the government's dime is one
the bar tab, Mally. It's the bar tab.
She has been allegedly drinking on the job. She apparently has a stash of alcohol in her office. I wonder if Pete Hegseth gave her some tips. And most concerningly, her husband has been accused of sexual misconduct by 2 DOL employees, and he is banned from going to the DOL office. So I would take...
my bet is good. It's a good bet.
It's a good bet. I would take Kristi Noem's husband with the fake boobs over Grabby McRopey.
Yeah, because at least he's just like a creepy guy with a phone camera versus this guy's actually physically assaulting, you know, workers in the office.
Your politics is insane.
We're fine.
It's like a TV show.
But jumping off something I'll agree with Tiffany on is that on getting rid of Pam Bondi, I think it's a strategically insane move by the Trump administration because I don't think Pam Bondi's done a great job, but he fired her because he's mad about bungling the Epstein files, and I think mad that she isn't prosecuting enough of his political enemies. The 2 issues there is, first, if there is a confirmation hearing, which there will be, all this crap about the Epstein files is going to be brought up and it's going to be litigated again. Second, on the prosecution of folks he thinks should be in jail, it's not necessarily the DOJ that has come up short, it's that juries and judges have rejected the case. So I don't know what Pam Bondi or anyone can do if every time they get the case, the DOJ and the jury are like, nope, we're passing this out.
And I think you deal with that with both sides, though. There's judicial activism that's happening on both sides of the aisle that I think are very dangerous. But to your point, I do agree that the optics of Pam Bondi, no matter how much I may like her personally, it's not good for the admin, and it's a better move to look, especially pre-midterms, while we're trying to wrap up this war with Iran, to clean house, to say, you know what? We don't like the way this first year has turned out. We're gonna listen to the American people. We're going to listen to the public sentiment, and we're going to try to make some real differences and bring in, I think, a little more center people that, you know, I have a feeling they probably won't be replaced with women. I have a feeling they're going to start bringing more men into these positions because I think that across the board they're not taken as seriously as the men would be in these.
Was it that congressional hearing with Bundy where she kind of lost her rag a bit? Did you reckon that was the tipping point?
Yeah, I mean, no offense, but I will never vote for a woman president.
Why not?
Because I think Mally hates me for this. Yeah, I'm not a white dude for Harris. Sorry, but I really think that, you know, men are more appropriate. I mean, I could go back to the Christian thing, but I think that men are more naturally, you know, inclined and talented for leading countries in large positions of power. I also think that I don't like any woman I can think of outside of Margaret Thatcher who led
I was going to say you got a sticker of Maggie on your laptop.
Maggie's my hero, but I think generally speaking, it takes. I mean, there's a reason why we called her the Iron Lady. Very, very rare kind of disposition you find in a woman. I haven't seen a woman run in politics in America yet since I've been alive that I would love to vote for president.
Well, you know, sexists would probably worry about a woman president because they might focus more on the drapes drapes in a ballroom than actual issues that affect Americans.
Molly.
But we've already have
We're
an American.
hormonal.
We already
No.
have an American president who focuses on the drapes.
That
and
is not
focuses
true.
on creating a ballroom.
Obama
for
built a
parties.
basketball court. Every other president has
I forgot how
had
he
major
tore down
additions.
the East Wing for
The
it.
East Wing was disgusting. Have you been in it lately?
I
It
have.
was
I worked at the White
atrocious.
House.
Not only that, and I've spent a significant amount of time in the Trump Kennedy Center. There were literal mice running around my feet and eating from my dinner plate. Like, they're terrifying. They're dropping the ceiling.
Look, I'm just saying, you know, the whole worry with a woman president is that she wouldn't take it seriously. But when we have a president who focuses on the drapes, focuses on his meetings with the Kennedy Center, and focuses on creating ballroom, maybe, you know,
I'm
we're
pretty
already
sure
getting the worst of
you're
it.
dancing around the reality of that situation. He's changing the foundations. He's building structure. He's using marble and things that don't fall apart like Democrat policies.
What's falling apart is our economy. We have a $1,700 tax increase on all Americans called as tariffs. Inflation is up to 3%.
You think Kamala would be doing a better job?
Yeah.
You
That's
do?
insane. No, I meant
of
it
course she doesn't.
completely sarcastically because there's absolutely no way on God's green earth that Kamala Harris or Otto Penn Joe Biden would be running the country anywhere other than into the ground.
If we had a President Kamala, we wouldn't have a $1,700 tax on middle-class Americans, the largest tax hike.
No,
in
we would
American
have
history.
completely open
We
borders.
wouldn't have-
The
we
United
wouldn't have-
States.
We wouldn't have job creation that's essentially zero. We would be investing in
Oh,
our
excuse me,
infrastructure
job
and
creation
science.
essentially zero. No. We have
Since
170,000
Trump-
new jobs.
Since Trump's,
the unemployment is down to 4.2%.
Since Trump's Liberation Day, we have created essentially zero jobs, and we've lost around
that's just not
100,000.
true.
That is 100%
No,
true.
here's
Look
the
it
thing.
up. Since Trump's Liberation Day, we have essentially created zero jobs, and we have lost
Literally
manufacturing
today,
jobs, 10 out of
CNN
11.
reported there are
Yeah, I'm saying the entire
170,000 new
year.
jobs.
Hold on, sorry.
Unemployment's down. It is. CNN and the New York Times have both had to come out and publicly say they were incorrect.
Tiffany, did we lose jobs last month? We lost 100,000
Well,
jobs.
beyond
last month.
Tiffany makes a great point.
No, we did not. We lost
Maddie.
100,000 jobs the month before that.
No,
so
you're
it
looking
equaled out.
First of all, you have to measure up against the fact that the reason why we have such a crappy economy is because of all the restrictions and legislation that Biden did during the COVID era, when he was literally just there, existing as a bag of human skeletons. I don't know even who was animating his flesh, but I mean it's true. And the Otto Pen, who we still don't know who was using that and utilizing it to sign off on absolutely everything. But what you also forget is that there are $150 million a year is what the illegal immigrant problem is costing the American taxpayer. So you want to talk about the money, you want to talk about the inflation, you want to talk about the economy. You can do all that, but let's not forget that the millions and millions of illegal immigrants that are here in this nation who are unvetted, who are unchecked, who are killing women like Laken Riley, like Jocelyn Nungare, like Rachel Morin, who are raping American women and are causing car accidents where young children as recently as this last week have died. Let's not forget the economic toll that they are costing the United States taxpayer. And this would all even out if we would be allowed to deport all the illegals like the American people have willed and mandated.
Okay.
Well, then, again, since Liberation Day, we have created pretty much net zero jobs. We have lost manufacturing jobs 10 out of the last 11 or 12 months.
Well, you stamped out illegal migration, which I think most people cared about. I'd take all of that. I'd take a massive economic whack to stamp out illegal migration and deport everybody. I actually think most people watching in Britain would agree with me. If we could kick out all the illegals and close the border, the southern border, and stop these dinghies coming for a pretty chunky economic hit, I think most people would take that, because there is no price you can put on the safety of women, girls, and indeed men who have been murdered by illegals in Great Britain, including the lad in Bournemouth, a 21-year-old murdered by we had a Siberian double killer waltz in on a boat and came and killed a young lad in Bournemouth on a night out. That's the kind of stuff that's going on. So, yeah, tax me more if that's the case. If it means stopping illegal migrants, I don't care.
I agree.
Right, with regards to the Labour Secretary, Laurie Chavez de Rima, is that how you pronounce her name?
I think so.
I think she would, of course, deny all
I think she
allegations.
gets our vote. Can we vote on this?
Yeah,
we should vote for the Trump
What were the allegations, just briefly? Not too much detail.
Bipartisan voting right
Bipartisan vote. Allegation that she slept with a subordinate.
Does she deny that, of course?
I think she denied it.
She has alcohol in her drawers.
Allegation that she's drinking on the job.
She denies that.
And then her husband has been banned from the DOL HQ. Like, that is not an
That's
allegation.
a fact, is it?
He's been banned.
Yeah, he's not allowed
He would,
to
I
work.
think, dispute that he sexually assaulted people in the office.
But then you'd be like, why aren't you allowed in the building, sir? What did you do that they revoked your little door ability?
Well, just saying, I've got a mortgage, I've got kids to feed, so if the secretary is watching, you're free to come on the show, put your side across, and of course you deny...
Don't sue Ben.
You deny all those allegations. Right, Christo Foufas, down the line. On that point about illegal migration, are you of the thinking that Brits, maybe like me, would take an economic whack if it meant dealing with illegal migration? Because for me, and I know the leftist media who ran that campaign last month against GBNews were calling me obsessed with migration. I mean, I am obsessed with it. I think it's the biggest national security threat to our country in decades, and I would take a massive economic hit if it meant sorting it overnight like I've done in America.
I think that it would be naive not to be honest with the British public to say that we have immigration. I'm not sure I would call it the biggest security threat, though it is a security threat, but immigration is the thread that runs through every single issue that we have here in the United Kingdom. There are many people that have come to the UK, my dad being one of them, who have not taken anything off the state, worked hard. My dad came in 1970 and have done very well for it and have done very well for the country for it. However, in the last 30 years especially, I would argue that no country can sustain the amount of immigration that we have had. But more importantly, we have created an economy that relied on it, meaning that many of the jobs that we used to give to, I would say, usually white working class young men, but working class young men in general, we outsourced. We gave them to Lithuanians, we gave them to Romanians that all came over from the EU. And again, they did a great job. They became our plumbers, our builders, our decorators, all of those things. But what it left...
They've all gone now.
Many of them have gone, but it left an underclass of people that didn't have any direction, that didn't know what they were going to be doing. And what it meant was also that we had a GDP that rose because our population went up rather than GDP per capita that went up, meaning that people got better off. It left too many people behind, it suppressed wages, it helped big corporations, and it didn't help those people who were at the lower end of society, for want of a better phrase. That is a 20 to 30 year plan, I think, to unpick, because we need to get our benefit system in order, we need to get our education system in order so that we have a route for those people to replace those that would have gone into those more hands-on vocational kinds of jobs. We need to have people working in the NHS, doctors, nurses, that we have trained here in the United Kingdom. That's part of our education system. It is a huge task, and there will be an economic hit to that, but it's the only way that we're going to be able to have a more self-sufficient country that hasn't got its entire economic model based on outsourcing from abroad cheap labour and certain jobs that actually we should have the infrastructure to train and have the people here in the UK doing.
Yeah, interesting. And I will say, we shot ourselves in the foot. We had everybody complained at the time about the Poles, the Lithuanians, the Eastern Europeans coming over and taking our jobs. In actual fact, they were hard workers, they were grafters, they were, for the most part, coming from Christian nations who shared our values, and they all went home after Brexit. 500,000 Poles went home last year because they've now got borders and a booming economy. Who can blame them? So they've all gone. And instead, we've got third worlders who, for the most part, I argue, in some cases don't integrate, can't speak the language, and they sit on benefits. £10 billion worth of universal credit a year going to foreign nationals.
You're absolutely right. I think the issue that people had with the European immigration was more about the kinds of jobs that they were doing, and that was also part of our fault because we were so academic focused under Blair's government. Everyone had to go to university. Well, actually, no. There were so many young people who weren't academic focused that should have been going to technical colleges, that should have been our builders, our plumbers, our carpenters, our electricians. Instead, many of the people came from those European countries and, again, did a really good job doing it, were really hard-working, but it left behind a generation of Brits. And that was the issue, and it became an issue with those people. But you're absolutely right. Many of those people have left now, and we've replaced that immigration from nations that you now have the issue of cultural integration. I never felt that Eastern Europeans weren't that culturally integrated, but I do feel that there's an issue with cultural integration when it comes to those third world places.
Yeah, if we thought it was bad then, by gosh, it's bad now. Mark Pearson on Your Say has said, love this comment, I've repeatedly said that if President Trump were to impose 100% tariffs on the UK and France until the small boats crisis is resolved, you'd quickly see the UK, if we have any capability left, says Mark, and the French Navy and Air Force in the Channel turning boats back the very next day. It's not a question of whether it can be done, it's about having the political will to do it, and Starmer clearly doesn't have that. Interesting proposal there, Mark. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight.
in the end, evil and wickedness will not prevail.
President Trump releases his Easter message praising Jesus Christ for the sacrifices he made. Are Brits, though, off the back of this, more afraid of showing their Christian faith than Americans? And why do you think that could be? I think that is the case. We'll discuss that next on The Late Show Live.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update for the Met Office. Quite a fine start to the day, but later on Storm Dave takes hold, bringing us a spell of very wet and windy weather, multiple weather warnings in force. But this morning it's very much the calm before the storm, even some brighter spells across many eastern areas. But this soon being replaced by cloud as the storm starts to push through. Some very heavy spells of rain across Northern Ireland and later on into Scotland and northern parts of England. And those winds really picking up by the time we reach the afternoon, particularly in the west. But across much of England and Wales, it should remain largely dry. Still quite windy, but feeling warm in any sheltered spots, highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius. Now, it's really into this evening that we see those strong winds really pick up. A chance we could see peak gusts of around 80 to 90 miles per hour in exposed areas of Scotland, and with some spells of snow that could even lead to some blizzard conditions. Some also very heavy spells of wind and rain across Northern Ireland and many western areas, still remaining largely dry across eastern England, but still very cloudy and still rather windy. So a chance of some severe gales through the course of the evening, still some very heavy spells of rain, some heavy showers elsewhere across England and Wales, but the storm mostly moves into the North Sea through the early hours of Sunday, and winds will start to lighten off from the west, but there still could be some heavy showers at times and still very strong gusty winds around any eastern coasts. So temperatures widely in the mid to low single figures first thing on Easter Sunday, but it's certainly going to be feeling chilly out there in the strong winds. Eventually we do say goodbye to Storm Dave, any winds largely easing away. Still a fairly brisk westerly wind on Easter Sunday, and it's going to be a day of sunshine and showers, but still lots of dry weather around, maybe even some sunshine by the afternoon. Particularly good if you're heading out for any Easter egg hunts. Feeling a little bit chillier, highs reaching around 13 degrees Celsius.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome back. Right, across the world, Christians, of course, have been marking Good Friday. I hope you enjoyed yours. In Rome, Pope Leo has led a candlelit service at the Colosseum, carrying the cross before thousands of worshippers. In the United States, Christianity remains front and centre in public life, of course. Presidents, politicians and public figures regularly speak openly about faith, especially at Easter. We've heard already tonight President Trump's Easter message. But in Great Britain, the tone appears, maybe from my opinion, more cautious. This year, King Charles didn't issue a public Easter message at all, although I would say he hasn't really done that in the past anyway, prompting criticism from some despite him sharing messages to mark Ramadan. And a little earlier this evening, as I just mentioned, Trump released this Easter message.
This Holy Week, I'm proud to join with Christians across the country and around the world to celebrate the most glorious miracle in all of time, the resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. In his life, Christ displayed true humility. In his death, he modeled true love. And in his resurrection from the tomb, he proved that even death itself will not silence those who place their trust in Almighty God. As it says in Gospel of John, for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, for whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. Eternal life, such beautiful words. This Easter, millions of Christians all over the globe will be reminded that because of what Jesus did on the cross, all of us can live every day with hope in God's promise, knowing that in the end, evil and wickedness will not prevail. In the spirit of joy and renewal this Easter, we also celebrate the extraordinary resurrection of faith and religion in America. As I have often said, to be a great nation, you must have religion and you must have God.
in churches across the nation on Sunday. The pews will be fuller, younger, and more faithful than they have at any time in many, many years. Religion is growing again in our country for the first time in decades. Happy Easter to all. May God bless you. May God bless the United States of America. Our country is doing so well like never before. Thank you.
Christo Fufas, Americans aren't shy over here about their faith, Christianity. In Great Britain, however, would you agree we're a bit more coy, reserved?
I think that it's a real mistake that King Charles, at a time when I think a lot of people, I'm not particularly religious, I'm Greek Orthodox, so actually it's my Easter next weekend. Lots of roast lamb will be eaten then. But I absolutely, completely see that those people of the Christian faith feel like they are becoming second-class citizens. They feel like they are no longer considered in the way that other faiths are. They feel like Christianity you can take the mickey out of, you can sideline, you can do all of those sorts of things, and people just have to put up with it. Whereas, now that would be fine, but if any other faith says that they are feeling like they are sidelined or feeling like they are repressed, I think that there is much more of an effort, isn't there, to try and include that faith, which is why you have had messages from the King and previously videos from the King that have celebrated Ramadan and Eid and those sorts of things. And when any other faith feels like they're sidelined, there is an awful lot done about it. Christians are saying they feel sidelined, and I think there is a fear for the King especially, who is supposed to be defender of the faith, to be too overtly Christian in video messaging and the like, because, I don't know, maybe he doesn't want to, maybe he feels like it might offend people, maybe he would feel it wasn't inclusive enough, I don't know, but I think it's a mistake.
Fahima Mohammed, who's a Muslim lady, of course, a friend of the channel, she comes on and she makes the point, which I agree with. She says, well, Christians don't do enough. They don't speak up enough about their own faith like Muslims do. They're not, they're not brash and bold about it. Do we need to be more like Muslims in that sense?
Well, I think one of the things that Christians, I don't want Christians to be more like Muslims. Because, you know, I think that sometimes we hear a little bit too much about religion in general that isn't Christianity. Now, I'm not sure that the answer is that Christianity gets more vocal and then the Islam gets more vocal and then everything else gets more vocal. Can't we all just relax a little bit about it and maybe have a bit less of all of it rather than more of one or two particular types and less Christianity? I made the point in the last show, and I really think it's really important, right? You either have to, the King particularly, either has to speak out about all of them or speak out about none of them. You can't have it that he will speak about certain faiths and then, as the defender of the Christian faith, or certainly the Church of England, not say very much at all. I think that that's a mistake, because Christians feel like they're getting a raw deal. We're actually seeing abroad Christians being repressed. In places like Nigeria, Christians are being repressed. The Nigerian president visited King Charles, and King Charles, you know, spoke about the celebrations for Eid when that Muslim president of Nigeria is presiding over a country where Christians are being repressed. That's not the defender of the Christian faith, I would argue.
Yeah, and also just on people visiting Downing Street, was it Jelani, the Syrian leader, the former Al-Qaeda chap who was at Downing Street today or yesterday? I believe he was part of the same terrorist group who beheaded Ken Bigley back in the day. Anyway, moot point. Tiffany?
Stop apologizing for being a Christian nation. The United Kingdom was founded on Christian principles. It is the heart of Western civilization. And it's very frustrating to me. You know, Christianity is the #1 most persecuted religion worldwide. It's a number that people often forget because we live in Christian nations. But you look at what's going on in the UK. For the first time ever, less than 50% of all British citizens consider themselves Christian. Now, this is not due to them really losing their faith. It's more due because we see a massive resurgence for Christendom, both in the Catholic and the Protestant church, especially with Gen Z coming back. This is due, again, to a mass migration problem from African and Islamic countries. There is no reason, inside of the Islamic faith, to have their prayer mats praying to Mecca at the floor of Westminster. There's no reason for that to happen. In fact,
there's multiculturalism. It's great. Diversity.
It's in your face. It's a conquering mentality. And frankly, I'm also very upset by the whole idea of halal. Where are all the PETA protesters? Where are all the animal rights protesters who are not upset about halal, about an animal's neck being cut and it bled out while it's still alive? These are things that we have overlooked in the name of multiculturalism and diversity, and we don't want to be Islamophobic. I believe the same way Baroness Caroline Cox believes when she told me years ago, Tiffany, there is no such thing as Islamophobia. There is radical Islam that wants to establish courts of Sharia law inside the United Kingdom, and we've allowed it to happen. We've been a frog in a boiling kettle. And we have not been proud and bold. And Christo, I will disagree with you on this. We do need to be bolder in our faith. We are called to stand up. We are called to be proud and to not back down, not go quietly in the night. Because if we don't stand up for Christianity now, what is going to happen 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now?
Manny?
I don't know where to add on that. Look, when it comes to public displays of religion, whether it's Muslims or Christians, I think as long as they're peaceful, I think anyone should be able to pray outside and be able to express their religious views safely. So I'm not as worked up about that. But I think when it comes to the U.S. and the U.K., the U.S. has traditionally been much more vocally religious than the U.K., and especially in their politics.
Yeah.
In our politics, even you can put aside evangelical Christians being very tied into the Republican Party. Most of our presidents, both Republican and Democrat, talk about religion. Joe Biden is very famously a devout Catholic. Obama talked about his conversion to Christianity. So I think it's just much more normal in American politics.
Okay, with me now is commentator Lois McClatchley-Miller. Lois, great to see you. Thanks for joining the Late Show Live at this hour. What's your take on all this? Should Christians be more vocal and more proud of their faith? Do we need to, as I asked Christo, take a leaf out of Islam's book?
Well, listen, two things are true at the same time. So it's true that in the UK that things have been getting more and more hostile to Christians over the last few decades, whether that's being mocked in mainstream media all the way to being prosecuted for praying silently in their heads. I'm glad that silent prayer was mentioned because Christians have been arrested in this country for simply praying or preaching in public. So it has become very severe. I would note also that those laws were not put in because of migration or to do with anything with Islam. Those were put in by the Conservative government, by Brits ourselves. We are the ones who censored Christianity in the first place, and I do think we have to recognise that in the mix of all these other topics as well. But one thing that we do know about the church is that the church thrives under pressure. It always has done since those early days of the early Christians, and I think because of that pressure, we are seeing this resurgence of faith now. So Bible sales have doubled over the last 6 years since 2018. There's more and more interest from Gen Z, particularly amongst men, in searching for faith and in looking and rejecting this kind of atheism of their grandparents and parents' generation. Seeing that hasn't worked out in terms of the large mental health crisis going on in our nation, skyrocketing abortion rates, family breakdown. We're not a healthy and well nation, and that kind of coincided with the rejection of Christianity. I think Gen Z are recognizing that, and that is pulling many younger voters, younger citizens into exploring the faith again.
Yeah, and I think Charlie Kirk did a great service. I mean, if you want to talk about martyrs, I think he probably is the definition of a martyr, promoting his faith and Jesus Christ as he did. Bible sales surged after his murder, so he played a massive part in that. Just on the, just as a bit of balance on the situation about praying outside abortion centres, I mean, people would say, predominantly the left, would say, well, that they're being antagonising. Why do you need to stand outside and pray in your head for women who are going into abortion centres? They wouldn't like that at a time of what would be, you know, pain, bit of anxiety, suffering.
Right. Yeah, to be clear, these laws are not about dealing with harassment or abuse or obstruction. Those things were already illegal. And that, of course, is right that that kind of behavior is illegal anywhere. What these laws are tackling or being interpreted to tackle is simply thinking. It's a thought crime to be able to stand on a public street in the UK and think a prayer in your head, even silently. 2 British citizens have already been prosecuted in court for the crime of praying inside their heads. And in the meantime, we see public displays of prayer on other religions, which I welcome, but it can't be for one religion and not the other.
Sure. Yeah, you can't have one and not the other. Lois, thank you very much. Happy Easter to you. Thank you for staying up at this hour. Really appreciate it, and enjoy your weekend. That's all for tonight. Tiffany, thank you. Manly, thank you. I'd like to ask my panellists what you're doing tomorrow. What are you doing tomorrow?
I'm going to hang out with my friends and walk around Georgetown, maybe join you and your family at the Cherry Festival.
Yeah, that would be great. Good stuff. Mally?
Gonna get a drink with my friend Grant, but that's it.
Christo, what are you up to tomorrow, very quickly?
Q, a DIY shop to buy some plants for outside, and then I am doing the Saturday 5, the extra show, 8 o'clock, so I'll be here then.
All right, well, you've been working like a trooper the last couple of days, so thank you very much. The viewers appreciate it. Viewers and listeners, thank you again for tuning into the Late Show Live. You know how much I appreciate you and I enjoy your contributions. I'll see you on Monday. Will Kingston is on duty tomorrow. I'll see you Monday. Enjoy, Will. Have a great weekend and happy Easter. Sweet dreams. Good night.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update for the Met Office. Quite a fine start to the day, but later on Storm Dave takes hold, bringing us a spell of very wet and windy weather, multiple weather warnings in force. But this morning it's very much the calm before the storm, even some brighter spells across many eastern areas. But this soon being replaced by cloud as the storm starts to push through. Some very heavy spells of rain across Northern Ireland and later on into Scotland and northern parts of England. And those winds really picking up by the time we reach the afternoon, particularly in the west. But across much of England and Wales, it should remain largely dry, still quite windy, but feeling warm in any sheltered spots, highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius. Now, it's really into this evening that we see those strong winds really pick up. A chance we could see peak gusts of around 80 to 90 miles per hour in exposed areas of Scotland, and with some spells of snow that could even lead to some blizzard conditions. Some also very heavy spells of wind and rain across Northern Ireland and many western areas, still remaining largely dry across eastern England, but still very cloudy and still rather windy. So a chance of some severe gales through the course of the evening, still some very heavy spells of rain, some heavy showers elsewhere across England and Wales, but the storm mostly moves into the North Sea through the early hours of Sunday, and winds will start to lighten off from the west, but there still could be some heavy showers at times and still very strong gusty winds around any eastern coasts. So temperatures widely in the mid to low single figures first thing on Easter Sunday, but it's certainly going to be feeling chilly out there in the strong winds. Eventually we do say goodbye to Storm Dave, any winds largely easing away. Still a fairly brisk westerly wind on Easter Sunday, and it's going to be a day of sunshine and showers, but still lots of dry weather around, maybe even some sunshine by the afternoon. Particularly good if you're heading out for any Easter egg hunts. Feeling a little bit chillier, highs reaching around 13 degrees Celsius.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me. Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We needs to stop. We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
Well, to be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it?
The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered.
Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
For everyone who's made the journey, especially on Good Friday. I really appreciate it. It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christie's Tonight.
And if you'd like to go on a list of people that's willing to actually adopt a refugee and take them into your home?
Well, if I had any space, I would.
If you had any space.
So, a charity in Leeds is asking if you can let an asylum seeker rent out your spare room. Any takers? No. Oh, OK. And?
As Muslims across the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth begin preparations to celebrate Eid after fasting for the holy month of Ramadan, I just wanted to convey my heartfelt best wishes.
Well, should the King be delivering an Easter message this year? It was announced yesterday that he will not. Plus... Is the boss of Marks and Spencer's right that Labour are creating lawless Britain? And marmalade is set to be rebranded in a post-Brexit food deal. Look, Starmer's sold out Britain, he sold out our culture, he sold out our cuisine, but worst of all, he sold out Paddington Bear.
Perhaps you would like a marmalade sandwich. I always keep one for emergencies.
So do I.
How could he? How could he? In other news...
Well, honestly, I was speechless when I woke up to your voice. Now you told me how you've been feeling. Let's look at...
I mean, honestly, ridiculous, isn't it? How has that bloke got any power? Should Starmer sack Ed Miliband? And... Does anyone here think that Shabana Mahmood's deal with the French is actually going to stop the boats? No. No, OK, all right, fair enough. Neither did the French, actually. But anyway, on my panel tonight, we are joined by the Head of Communications and External Affairs at the Adam Smith Institute. It's Joanna Marchand. We have got comedian and GB News contributor Steve N. Allen. We've got broadcasting royalty Christo Fufas. We've got Labour councillor, the wonderful Sebastian Salek. Oh, come on. Come Come on, he's not even said anything yet. All right, get ready, Britain. Here we go. All right, spare room for refugees scheme. Next.
Patrick, thank you. Good evening. The top stories. Donald Trump has reportedly told NBC News that the shooting down of an American F-15 fighter jet won't affect negotiations. The US president refused to discuss the specifics of the ongoing search and rescue effort in Iran. Asked if today's events will affect any negotiations with Iran, he said, "No, not at all. We're in war." One crew member from the downed jet has been rescued, US officials have confirmed, and is said to be having medical treatment. Earlier, two sources told CBS News that a search and rescue effort was underway for a downed US-15 two-seater fighter jet in southern Iran. It's not known what's happened to the second crew member. Iran's semi-official fast news agency has said the country has rejected a US proposal for a 48-hour ceasefire, citing an unnamed source. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal has reported that Iran officially told mediators it's unwilling to meet US officials in Islamabad in the coming days. A 14-year-old boy shot dead in London has been named as Egosa Ogbibor by police. The Met Police says two boys aged 14 and 16 and an 18-year-old man have been arrested on suspicion of murder in Woolwich in south-east London and remain in custody. Police had initially referred to the victim as a man because they couldn't identify him, but have now confirmed he was 14 years old. Officers were called to the scene in Lord Warwick Street, which is close to the Woolwich Ferry and Woolwich Dockyard train station, around 3:40 p.m. on Thursday. In other news, Marks & Spencer has called for a crackdown on retail crime after a week plagued by antisocial behaviour. The retailer has criticised the Home Secretary and the Mayor of London after a string of incidents involving shoplifting and violence at its stores, resulting in some staff being hospitalised. Earlier this week, scores of young people surged into shops in South London in so-called link-ups organised on social media. M&S says police should be given more resources to tackle incidents it says are becoming more brazen, more organised and more aggressive. Elsewhere, marmalade may need to be rebranded if a planned post-Brexit food deal with the EU goes ahead. It will have to be sold as citrus marmalade as Britain moves to re-adopt EU food measures in an effort to enable greater trade with the Union and minimise red tape for British producers. Brussels is changing its labelling rules, widening the legal definition of marmalade across Europe for the first time. And finally, NASA has shared the first high-resolution